be provided an opportunity to address the council on any agenda item determined after determination of a quorum and proof of notice of the meeting. Zoom meetings, comments, and questions, rules, and procedures are listed on the city website. Remarks will be limited to a total of 3 minutes per person. Please email your name to Gio Calderon at g.calderon@ci.alpine.texas.us. If you have a petition or other information pertaining to your subject, please email to the city secretary beforehand. All names wanting to make comments for the meeting will be queued upon and given to the mayor at the section of the meeting. The mayor may well call on those individuals one at a time, and our meeting moderator will take you off mute to make your comments. This will function the same as our existing sign-up sheet at City Council chambers. Please note, you must include your full name, first and last, along with the ward you reside in or have business interest in. If you do not live or own property of the city, please state that in your email. State law generally prohibits the council from discussing or taking any action on any issue not included on the agenda. But if appropriate, the council may schedule the topic for future discussion or refer the matter to staff. No personal attacks on council members or city staff will be allowed. The mayor or city council members may call a point of order to stop personal attacks. If an individual continues to personally attack an elected official or staff member in a meeting, they will be barred. Now call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. City Secretary.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a proof of quorum?
Mayor, we do have a quorum, and the notice was posted at 2 p.m. on October 2nd, 2020.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have anybody on queue for public comments?
Yes, we do have quite a few people. The first person would be Jan Moeller.
Jan Moeller, okay. Good evening, Jan.
Let me just find her really quick.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't look like she's made it on yet. I'll keep an eye out for her, but the next one would be Jim Street. Jim, if you could take yourself off mute.
Hello, Jim.
Okay, yeah, I had trouble finding it. Okay, I thought I found it. Am I unmuted?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, I'm Jim Street, Ward 5, President of Alpine Downtown Association, and this refers to item 9, number 2. We had a discussion about this at our meeting last week, and Eric had told me there was going to be a resolution by council supporting Art Walk, but we wanted to go on record as backing that resolution and supporting Art Walk in any way we can. We have found over the years that events like Art Walk, Cowboy Poetry, and some of the others have a major impact on the success of the business community, such that many businesses say they make their all or most of their profit for the year from these events. So we absolutely have to support Art Walk, and Carrie, as she's here, has made said that she would be mostly out of doors and with all the rules and regulations for COVID relief and avoidance, and not only that, the Hotel Occupancy Tax Committee has voted to support Art Walk. So we are very much enthusiastically in favor of keeping Art Walk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, this is John Kennedy. I just solved some technical issues. Honorable Council, just wanted to echo Jim's comments. from the board of the Downtown Association. And we certainly respect the need to balance public health. And we thank y'all for considering all of that. And we had a really good event on Saturday that I'm sure y'all are aware of. And we are excited to try to be smart as we move forward for our businesses. And as you know, we have lost a few of our businesses in town. And, and sorry, my video wasn't on. We have lost some businesses in town. And for the ones that are left, I know we're trying to work with them to figure out a way to move forward intelligently in a way that works for the community. So thank you all for your support with all of that.
Thank you, John.
Okay, so I have a list going here, but I don't see everybody that wanted to make a comment. So I have a John Davis, Rachel Maxwell, Mandy Larimore, Carol Morrow, and Sean Hopper. Any of those, you can unmute yourself. And then we also have Carrie Blackman available for anybody that has any questions.
I'm here. You want to turn yours down?
Echo.
Okay, she turned it down. I have several of my board members here in my office. We're here and available if you guys have any questions at all. We have changed our daytime hour. It's daytime hours only from 10 to 6. We are closing 4th, 5th, and 6th Street with your permission. We are separating all the vendors, art vendors, gem and mineral vendors, and the art silent auction that supports 100% the library will be at Kishmish Plaza, donated by Dr. Ronga. So I feel like as long as all the locations are complying with the governor's complying with the COVID, then I feel like that we can all respectfully pull this off. And we just really support everybody in town that's given the council or the city manager or anybody else the support of Art Walk and all outside and events this fall. That's all I got.
Okay, Jan Moeller is here and available to make her comment.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, I'm speaking as a representative of the Big Bend Arts Council in support of having Art Walk this year. I'm also a director of Catchlight Art Gallery. I support Art Walk to proceed as scheduled for this year. Alpine businesses have suffered, and we all need an opportunity to recover some of the losses that we have incurred during this period of opening restrictions. Throughout the current restrictions, our galleries have been diligent in following distancing guidelines and wearing face masks along with other necessary sanitary actions. We are providing masks in case someone forgets to bring one in, and have developed an action plan for both galleries based on the safe distance guidelines and our occupancy. We are also installing traffic flow indicators on the floor to reduce the likelihood of customers coming face to face, in addition to safe distance markers that we're also putting in. The governing board of Art Walk has, as a precaution, shortened the hours that the locations are open to prevent excess contact, and the areas where vendors are designated are positioned to provide adequate spacing between them. That being said, all venues must additionally adhere to the safety guidelines put out by the CDC and our state. These are simple steps to keep all of us safe, and many of the vendors and businesses in our area are depending on this income derived from Art Walk. And we take our CDC guidelines seriously and feel as though we can safely navigate Art Walk if you make the right decision to allow it to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
And that was everyone for public comments, Mayor.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and move on then. And we do have a presentation, and that's a proclamation for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Do we have anybody representing the Crisis Center?
We do. We have Gina Wilcox here.
Okay, could you unmute her, please, in case she wants to make a comment? Hello, Gina.
Hello, Mayor Ramos and Alpine City Council and attendees at the City Council meeting. I would just like to say thank you very much. We appreciate the support of the City Council, Mayor Ramos, as we continue to work to end domestic violence in our community. The struggle has been a little bit harder over the last 7 months as our communities and our families are dealing with the health crisis. We could not do it without your support. We appreciate you doing the proclamation today.
Thank you very much, and it gives me great pleasure to read this proclamation because you all have done a fantastic job out there. And the proclamation recognizing October 2020 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the city of Alpine, Texas. Whereas the problem of domestic violence is not confined to any group or groups of people, but crosses all economic, racial, gender, educational, religious, and social barriers, and is sustained by social indifferences. And whereas 1 in 14 women and 1 in 7 men will experience domestic violence during their lifetime. And whereas approximately 15.5 million children are exposed to domestic violence every year, and children that grow up in a violent home are believed to be abused and neglected at a rate higher than the national average. And whereas we recognize that our families are indispensable to a stable society, they should be placed of support to instill responsibility and values in the next generation. And whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month provides an excellent opportunity for our community to learn about preventing domestic violence and to show support for the numerous organizations and individuals providing critical advocacy service and assistance to its victims. This proclamation recognizes that every one of our residents deserves to live in a free from violence and abuse. Through this proclamation, we pledge to ensure the victims of domestic violence know that they are not alone, and our community is here to support survivors of domestic violence as they are courageously move forward to enjoy full and healthy lives, free from abuse. Now, therefore, I, Andres Ramos, Mayor of City of Alpine, Texas, do hereby proclaim month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month for the City of Alpine, Texas. And I urge all the citizens to work together towards eradicating domestic violence, improving victim safety, and holding perpetrators of domestic violence accountable for their actions towards the victims of our society as a whole. Signed on this 6th day of October 2020, Andres Ramos, Mayor, City of Alpine, Texas.
Thank you, Mayor Ramos. One last thing, I would like to invite everyone to attend our annual Domestic Violence Awareness Walk. We'll be having that on October 28th, Wednesday, October 28th, starting at 6 o'clock at the Brian Wildenthal Memorial Library, walking down Sul Ross Avenue to the courthouse. We're not going to have the presentation and speakers this year because we don't want people to be gathering and hanging out as a group. But we will have the walk with masks required and social distancing. Also, we'll be I'd like to invite you to come to our table at the Midweek Mercantile. On Wednesdays, we're going to be painting pumpkins purple for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Purple is the color for domestic violence awareness. And so we encourage you to wear purple, come paint a pumpkin purple, and join us for our walk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to City Attorney report. Attorney Pond.
Hey, Mayor, this is Rick. I know you passed over, you don't have
I'm
a
sorry,
city
did I?
report.
That's
okay. You don't have a report. I was just going to ask a couple questions. One is just to get an update on plan for recommending a municipal court judge to council for approval, because that's part of your purview. Have
Right.
you been off working on that?
Yes, I understand that we're in need of one desperately, sir.
Okay, I just was wondering if you had a timeline or if you're looking for inputs or thoughts.
Well, yes, sir. If you have any, if you'd please email them. I have one individual in mind, and I need to talk to them to see if they would accept the position if it's offered to them.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. The second was, I noticed that the Alpine Avalanche quoted you as saying you were not in support of Art Walk because of the COVID and upcoming flu season. Is that a correct statement, or would you care to comment on that?
Yeah, I'm going to comment on it. Yes, I'm very concerned because of the COVID and the increase of it, but I don't have a problem. I just listened to the representatives from the Art Council, and they're saying that they will adhere to those safety measures. And if that happens, then we'll move forward on it. Of course, it'll be the council's choice, to vote on it. But yes, that was correct, a statement, okay? I hadn't had all the facts in from the Art Council as to what they had planned or anything like that. So I'm looking for the safety of the general public as a whole.
Okay, thank you.
You're quite welcome. Okay, let's move on to City Attorney report.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I've got two reports for you. One on the city use of the county jail update, and the second one on the current state of the COVID orders from the governor's office. If you go to the next page.
Okay.
In this, for I don't know, for 10 years or more, the Brewster County Jail has been accepting persons from the Alpine Police Department who have been arrested but not arraigned. This is really a sort of a nighttime deal because it's usually a magistrate judge available during the day to magistrate an arrested person who's arrested during the day. But in the spring of this year, sheriff began requiring that persons arrested that have not been arraigned see a judge admitted. The reason he was able to do that is that state law provides that the sheriff is the ultimate keeper of the county jail, and that he keeps prisoners committed to the jail by lawful authority subject to an order of the proper court. And that language has been interpreted to mean subject to a warrant for arrest or a magistrate's order of detention after seeing a judge. Next slide. So the sheriff was not being unlawful when he said he would require magistration before admitting a municipal prisoner. And there's a couple of attorney general opinions on this that talked about how that he's required to accept municipal arrest after a magistrate, and he doesn't have discretion to deny that. So his only discretion would be before a magistrate sees the prisoner. And once again, this was in the occasional case when somebody's arrested at night and there's no magistrate judge available. The attorney general opinions have also gone on to say that after magistration, the county is required to incarcerate the prisoner. And if there's actually another opinion that if the sheriff denied that and the city had to take the prisoner somewhere else, the first county's liable for the cost of that. The next slide. The sheriff's stated reason for wanting the magistration requirement was to not be held liable for false imprisonment claims. Once again, this was a departure from previous practice from the Brewster County Jail. Although he had this right, he didn't have any written agreement about how he would take prisoners or not. So it became a surprise and became a problem for the Alpine Police Department because we didn't have a night magistrate like we have in bigger cities, a judge that sits there and reviews an arrest for people when they're arrested in the middle of the night. Go on to the next
Hey,
slide.
Rod, before you leave this chart, bullet number 2 is a really important one. It says the sheriff pointed to certain APD arrests that lack probable cause when instituting magistration requirements. What are specific examples of that?
One was an arrest of an individual for criminal trespass. that had he'd been arrested for the misdemeanor charge of criminal trespass, and that case was presented to the Brewster County attorney, who reviewed it and determined that, in his opinion, there was no probable cause, and he dismissed the case. There was another one, don't have the specific name, but there was another similar one on that. And these were the ones that were pointed to by the sheriff.
And what are the dates of those cases?
First case I referred to, I believe, was from April of 2020. And I believe the other one is in a similar time frame.
So there are only 2 cases that are considered part of that lacking probable cause?
Those were the ones pointed to by the sheriff.
And did the sheriff take any action to meet with the police department or anyone else to have a discussion about that?
No,
And so the sheriff took no action. Did the sheriff meet with you back in the time those were put together, since you are the city prosecutor, to be able to have that discussion?
he did not. We didn't discuss the issue of, at the time of at the time all that was happening, and they were declining the persons to come to jail, I did not have a discussion with him then.
Okay.
Discussion I had with the sheriff was last month when I wrote y'all that letter.
Okay, and so when did the sheriff stop allowing acceptance of prisoners?
My understanding is it was earlier this year, spring of 2020. I can't tell you the exact time.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking, Rod, my recollection looking back at the data is that the stopping of allowing the Alpine Police Department occurred far in advance of the 2 cases that you cited. So I'm just trying to understand the root cause, because when we get into the action item later on, council has to contemplate what our options are. And what appears to me is the sheriff unilaterally chose, without issues associated with probable cause, even though this statement says there were probable cause. So I would like to understand, and this is an action item for you, the specific cases and the dates about when that occurred, and when the first time that the sheriff chose not to allow APD to accept a prisoner they had brought to the jail.
I don't have that specific data, but I will gather that up and bring that back to you and the council at the next meeting.
That'd be great, thank you.
So I can't comment on whether there was an excuse after the fact or before the fact. I'm just trying to present the facts as I know them.
I understand. My sense is it was an excuse after the fact. I would love to be wrong, but I just, as someone looking at facts.
I understand. The next slide, please. And so this did sort of blow up into a bigger issue, and it was certainly a problem for the Alpine Police Department to be able to make sure that persons they arrested at night could be placed into jail. So I met with the sheriff, and he agreed to begin accepting arrested persons from the Alpine Police Department before magistration. And I wrote y'all a letter on that on September 22nd, that without magistration, persons who are arrested for those crimes, major felonies, DWI, public intoxication, and domestic violence, and any other major felonies, any other major cases would be allowed into the jail. He asked that other misdemeanors be given summons, which is what he said that the Brewster County Sheriff's Office does, things such as minor drug offenses, you know, marijuana, cigarette, possession of controlled, just a pipe or some kind of drug paraphernalia, things of that nature. So, and my understanding is that since that time, there have been persons admitted to the Brewster County Jail from the Alpine Police Department without magistration.
Yeah, so Rod,
I
the
don't know if
first
there's-
admission was
Sir?
on September 19th, prior to your meeting with the sheriff.
Sir?
Was there any discussion about the context about why that was allowed to occur prior to your meeting?
Why, what was allowed to occur? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I'm sorry, on the 19th of September, which is prior to the 21st, the sheriff admitted individuals brought to the jail without magistration, and they were accepted. And that was on Saturday, the 19th.
I didn't know about that, and that was not mentioned to me when I met with the sheriff on the 21st.
Okay, I'm just putting facts again on the table. They started accepting them on the 19th, not on the 22nd.
As I said, that was not brought up at the meeting I had with him, but everything that was brought up at the meeting I had with him, I put into writing and shared with the council.
No, I appreciate that. I understand.
Next slide. So right now, my understanding is that the issue is more or less resolved, that serious offenses won't require registration before going to jail. As you have on the agenda later to discuss, Councilor Stevens, it's probably better to have a formal agreement to deal with all of these issues so there's no confusion. But that's going to be subject to future agreement. Next slide.
So before you leave that one, Rod,
Yes.
you know, this last bullet says city APD, sheriff, and county can continue to discuss the formal interlocutory agreement for the jail use / admissions. Thus far, the sheriff has refused to have any meetings. Was there any discussion with the sheriff that you had regarding why there has been a lack of willingness to meet? Because that third bullet, basically, I know the city manager and the Alpine police chief have tried to work that, but thus far, the sheriff has not been willing to attend. Any comment?
No comment from me, other than the sheriff told me that he would be willing to work out an agreement, formal agreement.
Okay. Thank you.
So. And that's sort of that sort of goes back to the gatekeeper issue, that agreement has to go through the sheriff. It's not really an agreement that the city can make with the county, or that the city council can make with the commissioner's court. It has to come through the sheriff's office.
So I have something to say. I'm sorry, I've been having problems with my getting into the meeting. But actually, I met with Ronnie Dodson, and on the video, on the slide before this, I got to see where Ronnie did try and contact the chief, and he also tried to contact Rick several times. And I think there was some discussion that went back and forth between Rick and the sheriff, but then it just stopped.
So I can tell you, Lucy, about the discussion between Ronnie and me. The last outreach was I asked to meet with him, and that never happened. That's when he met with the mayor and Ron Ponton. So I don't want to be confrontational with this, but I had reached out to Ronnie as he had reached out to me. It never came to fruition because for some reason there didn't seem to be time. And as I said, he met with the mayor and he met with Ron Ponton. I would like to see this resolved no different than anyone else. I just don't like the games that have gotten played for 6 months.
Oh, I agree with you on that. I do think that things need to get resolved. But I don't think going back and forth and one person is saying one thing and another person is saying a completely different thing isn't okay either.
Well,
I mean, I really wish that I would have taken a picture of the calls that went that we're going back and forth. And I
I've
don't
got
have
them
that.
on my phone if you want, between Ronnie and me. That's easy. I just wish we'd all show up at a meeting at the same place, because the people that have to resolve it are the chief and the city manager, because we council can't say anything, and Ronnie Dotson.
I agree.
If I may add on my perspective, I'd like to say kudos to Ron Ponton for taking that initiative of finally meeting with the sheriff and coming to some agreement, so that it can now be used as a basis so that we can move forth to a more concrete agreement or policy that can be brought before council so we can vote on it, because it is policy as far as I understand.
When you and Ronnie reached your agreement, were emails or phone calls made to the chief and the city manager?
Me? No. It was just an informal meeting, and I just asked him what he would take to start admitting people into the jail and what types of prisoners he would accept. And I made notes of what he said he would accept. And it was, I think it was an evening meeting at 5:30 or something. And I typed up his notes into a letter the next morning and distributed it.
You know, it kind of perplexes me that, you know, you've got the sheriff's office and you've got the chief's office, and they're within short walking distance. Why one cannot walk and visit with the other?
Hey, is the chief on?
Yes, sir. I'm on. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Sure. How many times did you reach out to the sheriff, and what has the discussion been?
I have sent 2 emails, one being the workshop that we tried to have, that we had at the city, and also a email directly to him, and with no response other than a response to the email about the workshop that he said he couldn't attend due to his father being ill.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
It just seems this issue has drug on too. And like I said, we're walking. I'm getting a feedback on this thing. You know, they're so close together that one cannot walk or see the individuals, the chief's car's there, or Ronnie's truck is there at the jailhouse, and just walk in and let's sit down and settle it. You know, it's that simple. Yes, sir. Chief.
Mayor and council, I would like to add to that, going over my notes, that the communications stopped between me and the sheriff on April 14th of this year. And it was because of one of my officers posting something on Facebook, not pointing the finger at the sheriff's department or anything. And Ronnie, the sheriff, called me in an irate stage. And when I questioned why he was so upset, he used profanity at me and hung up on me. And I do have a witness to that. And haven't spoke to him since.
Is the sheriff on Zoom? Gio?
No, I haven't seen that he is on the meeting tonight.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I will say right around that time is when we started having to get the prisoners magistrated to get them in jail. I would like to add to that our first prisoner that we put in jail unmagistrated was after the council meeting, our last council meeting, when Sandy Wilson said what she had to say. Since then, we put 3 prisoners in jail unmagistrated until today. We made an arrest that we were mandated to make an arrest. It was a violation of a protective order, which we are mandated to make that arrest. took them to the jail, tried to book them in, and was told that we had to have them magistrated. So we were entering or getting prisoners in jail prior to the meeting that Mr. Potton says he had with the sheriff. And for some reason today, it has appeared to have stopped.
Was this arrest made during the day or evening or what?
It was made today.
During the day.
And this was by court order?
It's a violation of a protective order, family violence, and we are mandated to make that arrest, and the jail would not take them without being magistrated.
Right, understand that it's mandated. My question is, was there a magistrate on hand during the day?
The individual was magistrated, yes.
Okay. So was he taken in, was he accepted at the jail then if he was magistrated?
Since then, we've had to call, we've had to release him to I'm getting into HIPAA stuff here. He was taken to a different facility for other reasons.
And are you able to say what those reasons were?
Once he is cleared, he is magistrated and will be brought back to the Brewster County Jail.
He's not going to be able to say, Andy, because of HIPAA.
What's that? I didn't catch that.
You're not going to want him to say because of violation of federal HIPAA laws.
No, I'm not. I didn't say that. Didn't even come to my mind.
What date was this?
Today.
And he wasn't allowed?
Was not allowed into the jail without magistration.
Okay, but my question wasn't answered. Was there a magistrate available during the day today?
And I answered that. Yes, sir, there
Oh,
was.
I'm sorry.
He was magistrated, yes. But he was released to a different facility due to other reasons. But he will come back to the Brewster County Jail.
Okay.
I have a question for the police chief. Do you feel comfortable with the 4 or 5 points that came about or resulted from the meeting between Mr. Ponton and the sheriff, county sheriff?
You know, I'm not real clear on the points. I don't know the conversation, have not received anything from Rod Potton, nor have I received anything from the sheriff on this so-called agreement. There are charges that happen that we're mandated to make arrests, such as family violence, and that's not on the list. So I have questions about it, but no one has spoke to me about it. No one has given me any type of directive on what was discussed or anything.
So the information presented by Mr. Ponton today, which includes the 4 or 5 points, that's the first time you've heard or seen it?
I have seen the memo, but it's not real clear to me, no.
It includes domestic violence arrests. Would be jailed without magistration.
Yeah, upon seeing
Well,
the
I have
memo,
formally not been told anything.
okay, upon seeing the memo that Rod sent out about the meeting and the 5 points that they came in agreement to, did you try to get in touch with Mr. Ponton to get clarification?
Mr. Potton, did you send me that memo?
I don't remember if I did or not, Chief. I know I sent it to the city manager and the members of the council.
Yes, I got the copy, so.
Well, that would have been Eric's thing to send it to the
Can
chief.
you hear me by chance? Sorry, my audio is, this is just great.
Well, the only thing I can reiterate from my end is those 4 or 5 points that came out during the meeting sound reasonable. And that is a basis to enhance communications between the county and the Alpine Police Department. Whoever is going to join in the next round of negotiations, to use those as the groundwork and work from there. But at some point, we need to come up with a clear policy regarding this issue so we can vote upon it.
I agree with that.
Yeah, city manager, is your audio cleared up yet?
Not yet.
Okay, can you forward that email to the chief
Can you
and
hear
have him
me
go
now?
over it?
Can I touch on something else that's been discussed?
Yes,
And
sir.
it is regarding the letter that Mr. Potton has put out in regarding to the problem that certain people have with our probable cause. And he lists in his letter who those individuals are. Ronnie Dotson, James McDermott, Sandy Stewart, Steve Houston. My question is, if there has ever been a problem with any of my probable cause, why did the JP do the magistrates? And secondly, why didn't anyone come to me and express their concern? No one has contacted me regarding an issue with anything that the Alpine Police Department has done. And with that being said, I've also talked to the Texas Ranger and invited him to come into the department and review our cases. So no one has mentioned anything about having issues with the department until Mr. Potton puts this in a public letter and on the radio.
Can you hear me now by chance?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and I apologize for whatever reason. We've had just a couple internet issues, but with that being said, we one of the things that Chief and I made a real specific method to do, and that was to reach out in writing. Once we knew things were the communication was not happening, I had asked Chief to specifically reach out in writing. Sandy Wilson specifically reached out to the sheriff in writing as well to meet. You know, I've sent numerous documents over to the county and have copied our city council on them. We've invited the sheriff in the county to participate in the emergency services workshop, up to and including law enforcement that council had asked for. We had every law enforcement agency in attendance but the sheriff's department. And so what's perplexing to me is why Sheriff Dotson will not meet directly with Chief Martin upon written request, meet with the DA, Sandy Wilson, who gave a readout on this last council meeting, or you know, is refused to participate in these other events that we've organized that would be a great forum for these types of discussions. Now, you know, I'm all for moving forward and having it, but you know, we need to have, I do continue to share with Chief, I want this stuff put in writing. I put all my stuff in writing because these anecdotal conversations about, oh yeah, I talked to this person, that just doesn't work. You know, we're at a point where this stuff needs to be put in writing. We need to manage through this. And we need to reflect back on what our original agreement was from the city's perspective when we gave the land to the county to construct the jail. And that had no conditions on the admittance of arrestees. And it was very clear. I did meet with Judge Beard on it. Judge Beard was very gracious in her time and shared that with me. Sandy Wilson also asked that directly to Judge Cano, who attended that meeting. He answered in the affirmative. And so, you know, prior to Rod's meeting with Dotson on the 21st, that weekend before, as was shared, Chief Martin had a couple folks that had been arrested that were able to go in. That's now changed. And so we certainly want to have a good agreement in place and a good working relationship. But both sides, we need the sheriff to respond to our messages and agree to meet. That's important.
I agree with you there, Eric. They should meet face to face and get this issue resolved. It's drug on far too long, and we spend a lot of time on this thing going back and forth. He said, she said type thing.
I think Chief Martin was very gracious in when he reached out to Sheriff Dotson. He wanted to get together, preferably weekly, to talk about a host of issues, whether it was related to the jail, whether it was related to
You cut off.
Clearly, and I asked Chief to put that in writing, which he did. We still want to have that meeting and iron out these issues. When it comes to examples of issues relative to probable cause, to me, I'd like to dig into that. What are those specific cases? We've never, as an organization, stated that we're perfect in our actions, but we do always request dialogue, specifics, so that we can go through them and clearly identify if there's an issue that we need to resolve or a pure understanding of how we're moving forward.
Okay, well, let's try to work on this thing and get this thing resolved. If it takes, you, city manager, walking with the chief all the way to Ronnie's office, and right then and there, let's sit down and talk about it, or you guys can talk about it rather.
I'm just baffled. In my career, I just honestly am not used to making a legitimate professional request to somebody and then refusing to meet with you. That's just bizarre. We'll make the requests again.
Okay, well, good.
Eric, I've got a question for you. How many officials are there available to magistrate arrestees before going to jail?
Well, without the municipal judge, you've got the justice of the peace. You do have the county judge.
So we have 3.
Except
well,
none
there's
after
the
hours.
municipal judge is gone effective Friday.
Right.
Okay.
She resigned.
Because it would seem to me like in the past, am I maybe understood wrong when talking to somebody else, but that one of the judges would be available to magistrate arrestees in the evening in case there was a need. Why don't we have that now?
May I try to answer that?
Sure.
In the past, we had Sandy Stewart, our municipal judge, and Bob Still. And like I've presented to council before, Bob Still, if it's something of a felony, a major crime, he has been more than willing to come out and magistrate. Sometimes he doesn't wake up right away and delays, but if it's a family violence that's not a felony, a lot of times our narcotics charge, a lot of times they won't magistrate at night. So we end up releasing the suspect and getting a warrant for them and pick them up later. And that at that point, take them in front of the magistrate. So right now we're down to Bob Steele, JP Precinct 1 doing our magistrates. Judge Cano can do it, but I don't know if he feels comfortable doing it. I haven't reached out to him, just like the mayor can do it. But you have to go through a certain amount of training before you can do that.
Right. Chief, I've got a question. Why can't this thing be done via Zoom or via the internet?
That's the way we do the magistrate. It's called video magistrate.
Okay, so
that's what we have to do today.
Okay. Yeah, that was a concern because I know that Bob's got some there's some personal issues And sometimes he can't get away. And so that's why I was going like, why can't we do it via the internet?
And that's, you know, and I understand Judge Steele's condition, and told him he will be my last choice to, or last one to try to contact. I felt I needed to have our municipal judge do it since we're the one filing the charge. But at times I did, you know, a lot of times people don't answer their phones.
Don't we have JPs in South County and in Marathon?
Yes.
And can they be utilized?
That I haven't even reached out to them. I don't know if they do video magistrate or not, to be honest.
And that's another source that could possibly, you know, probably help alleviate the situation.
Legally, they can do it.
They can't?
Legally, they can.
Okay.
But I know that in Presidio County, 2 different justices of the peace will magistrate for each other when needed. But whether the ones in Brewster County, as the chief said, have the equipment or not, I don't know the answer.
Right. What all do they need on this equipment?
It's a setup where we actually do our probable cause. We start a session on the video magistrate, and then it pings the judge to let them know they have a session ready to conduct a magistrate. And then they go in and have a variety of files to download and fill out before they come online and actually conduct the magistrate. It's with no issues. It's not difficult it's not very long. On average, a magistrate should take no more than 35 minutes. We are still new to the video magistrate, and even Judge Stills used it longer than we have, and he still has difficulties at time that we have to work through. But we always have been able to work through it and help each other out.
What is it? Just an app, isn't it, on your computer?
No, sir.
Or you need?
It's a software that we've purchased from, and that's the name of it, Video Magistrate. And there's certain things, once a session is complete and we lock it on our end, now it's encrypted. So all that information has to be protected.
Right. And if it's a JP doing it, it should be protected.
Well, it has to be protected. Once we lock it on our end as the officer that opens the session. And once we lock it, now it's encrypted.
You can always go back and pull it out again.
We can, yes.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, those are just options that I was just thinking here about the other JPs, if they couldn't be utilized also, and see if they have that app or on their computers.
Well, it's not an app; it's actual software that.
Well, it's software. An app is a software. You go in there and it's an application, and you do pay for it. Some of them are not free.
This is software. This isn't an app. This is software that has to be purchased by the magistrate and by the city, and then it connects.
Right. I understand what you're saying. You know, different people have different terminologies for it. Okay. Anything else on this issue?
Mayor, who were the people that you were saying about magistrating? You were talking about Marathon,
Marathon and South County.
And what about Marfa?
No, Marfa.
They're in a different county.
Yeah, that's going to say, I didn't think they could, but.
Okay.
Okay. All righty. Anything else there, Mr. Pond?
No, I have another presentation on the update on the COVID. I'll try to get through it quicker.
Sorry.
let y'all know sort of where we are on the governor's orders as y'all go through issues such as gallery night, things like that, try to make decisions. The governor made another executive order on September 17th and kept bars closed, but a lot of them have been able to get around that by opening up 51% as a restaurant. The maximum capacity for restaurants has been increased. Outdoor gatherings are still limited to 10 persons, but the mayor and the county judge can allow more. And the statewide mask mandate is still in effect, but once again, it's like the discussion we've had before on the mask mandate. It's a requirement without a penalty. So, but everybody's supposed to still use it when you're in a closed area or closer to other people than 6 feet. Next slide, please. The bars, TABC is by rule has allowed bars to reclassify as restaurants, and if they are showing that they have food sales that are 51% of the sales, they can be open. I think a lot of this is a little bit loosey-goosey, but the bars that are open are serving food and trying to comply with the TABC rules. And it'll be up to the TABC to determine if they're really selling 51% of the sales for food as opposed to beer or alcohol. The restaurants have a 75% indoor capacity guideline. So they're not able to be at 100% capacity, but it is substantially larger than it was before. Next slide. The outdoor dining is recommended and allowed. The hospitalization rates, if they rose to a level, the governor could snap back capacity to 50%. Personal care businesses are able to open at 100% if social distancing is possible. So personal care businesses are able to be reopened. Next slide. There's a lot of exceptions to the 10-person outdoor gathering limit. Critical infrastructure workforce, religious services, schools, places of higher learning such as Sol Ross, recreational programs, concerts. If they're a drive-in concert, they want people to try to maintain social distancing. So there is allowed to be some gathering. I think maybe the city could come up with some kind of recommendation for the gallery night to limit the in-person contacts, maybe 10 people or less, and stay within the family unit or stay farther apart. I don't know, y'all can just discuss that as you get through that issue.
The place is full. 10 people in the middle of a big cathedral.
Can we mute those, Gio?
Next slide, please. And Mayor, you have the authority to issue a proclamation waiving that 10-person limit for outdoor gatherings. And you can put allowable conditions on the gathering, so you can maybe talk with the downtown association groups and get some ideas on the upcoming events. And you can see there's a lot of exceptions. We got to make sure we're able to see our college football, museums and libraries, rodeos, etc., so that limit doesn't apply. So next slide.
Well, Rod, this is
Yes.
in a home rule city. How does that work? Because the mayor does not have directory requirements. He can make proclamations from an emergency standpoint. How does that fit if city council chooses to allow things to occur?
Well, if the city council chose to allow something different than what the mayor wanted, the city council's decision would take precedence.
Thank you. Okay.
If the mayor wanted to take action alone, according to the governor's orders, he could, but once again, it would be subject to council clarification or whatever you all wanted to do.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Pond,
Yes, Mayor.
Isn't there a state law that or a statute that said, I'm trying to think, it was back in 1975, where the mayor or the judge become the EMCs if there's not one available for their particular area.
The fact that emergency management laws have pretty well clarified that the county judge becomes the default emergency management coordinator for the county, which would include the city in the absence of a designation of another person to be the emergency management coordinator. I think way back when there may have been something with the mayor involved, but I think now the mayor's authority is going to flow through from the governor's orders.
Right.
So the final slide is, yesterday the governor was tweeting that he started bragging that Texas is doing good and he wants to announce more openings soon. And he finishes by saying cheers. So I would suspect that might have something to do with maybe bars getting a little bit more open, but we'll wait and see what the governor has in store for us.
Okay. That's probably good news for some of our, if it's intended for the bars here in Alpine, especially those that are like small establishments.
Right.
And they're suffering tremendously, during this pandemic.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. That's my report.
Okay.
Hey, Rod, I have a couple questions, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to just continue to run this thing out, but when will you provide an update to council, either in executive session or in public session, about what's going on with the issue with the dump? Given that's a big legal issue on the table. And there was, when we got together on the 1st of September, I know when council and you met, I thought we had agreed that you would each meeting provide council with an update, and recognizing some of those are confidential. So we knew where each of the major legal cases are. That's one of them. I know we're going to talk about Park Hill, Smith and Cooper in executive session. We'll talk about the railroad issue in executive session, but there's some others that are out there.
Councilor Stevens, I'll get together with city manager and go over the dump issue and see if we're ready to give you all an update at the next meeting. We have some specific information on that, and I just need to go back through that with him before I can say we're ready, but I'll try to do that at the next meeting.
That'd be great. And I know we're going to approve in the consent agenda as part of item number 3, your August 2020 invoice. I noticed there's like a $2,000 difference between what we got in the package and there was an update that came through. Was there a reason behind what happened there?
My billing in my office, my billing goes through what we call a pre-bill, and that's reviewed, and then the final bill is done. And my secretary that prepares those inadvertently sent out the pre-bill as the first bill, instead of sending out the final bill that had been more carefully reviewed by her and me to come up with the final bill.
Thank you. Okay, thanks.
Okay, any more questions?
No, thank you, Rod.
Thank you, Mr. Patton. Let's move to the city manager report.
Audio. I guess can you hear me?
Yeah, it can hear you.
Okay, perfect. All right, we've got a full list of slides. I think as everybody's aware, Becta Escobar stepped down as our local health authority. And I think, most of that was just due to her being very busy individual. And, she did a fantastic job for us and really appreciate the resolution we did earlier this year. With that being said, I'll go through a series of reports on COVID-19. And if you go to the next slide for me, Gio. The judge still hosts, it typically is a bi-weekly meeting, CB team meeting. Last one was held Tuesday, September 29th. On that, we were introduced to Dr. Rachel Sone, who is the regional health authority out of El Paso. She gave us a little bit of her background and some of the items that are being discussed regionally and at a state level too, relative to COVID-19, at least from a Department of Health Services perspective. Throughout the course of the meeting, we also do updates from the city, Sol Ross, South County. There's some hoteliers down there that all give updates on the call. One of the things that I talked about extensively on the 29th was our fall events, and as well as Halloween. With Dr. Sone on there, I thought it would be a good place to really discuss how we're handling things from a city perspective relative to trying to promote more of the outdoor events, outdoor activities. So just a real good idea share there. She was very positive about all of the events and the ways that we're handling things, specifically the safety protocol and planning, some of the things that you've seen like from Art Walk, from our midweek music and mercantile. Those groups continue to really put out safety protocol and procedures so that people know the expectations when they show up. The same will be true in how we approach Halloween this year. So then the $1 million question I asked her was, help me understand and walk me through on GA 30 and GA 31, why when the state looks at it, they certainly open some things up. And Gio, if you want to go to the next slide for me. And I know Rod covered this, but after the openings, there's this whole host of exceptions. And so if you look at things just from a human to human perspective, right, we're all humans, okay? Just because you're part of a religious group or you're part of a local government operation, it doesn't mean that you're going to be any different in the spread of a respiratory. So my question was, help me understand in more depth why the governor would actually put exceptions in the order. If the rule of thumb is 10 people, then is that not a good rule of thumb? She hemmed and hawed. She's been asked that question before, but I really think it is an important question, important thought, because that's part of what we get in our office is, how come certain groups can do it and other groups can't? And so more importantly, I think she continues to take that back to the senior leadership at the state level. She is a state employee, and really try to drive some understanding. That could be some of the output from Governor Abbott on his statements of possibly opening some more things. But one of the pieces that we've really tried to do from an Alpine perspective is not just open things nilly-willy, but be smart about it and put some structure in place and some guidelines in place. So really good dialogue there. GA 31, as we all know, is really more about high hospitalization rates. Brewster County's not really in the mix on that. Next slide for me. ACTA would always show kind of the 7-day trend line, new reported cases in Texas, new reported deaths, what the day counts look like, what the trend counts look like. So wanted to certainly flash that up. And if you go to the next slide for me, Gio, this is really kind of a compilation of that, cases and deaths. and you can see what's the total reported, where we were October 4th, and what that 14-day change looks like. So certainly we want to continue to trend down. So next slide for me, Gio. And along the way, please stop asking questions as you need. The Department of Health Services continues to post this particular visual. We post it on our website. As you all know, positive cases noted in Brewster County right now are 220. That was of 315 yesterday. Next slide for me. And then with ECTA out of the mix is a local health authority. I know Brewster County, who flashes a daily report up on their Facebook page, is changing that a little bit. So here's the new look. They're referencing back to the John Hopkins site, which was something that we had all looked at really initially. And then the next page for me. The next page is really a cutout from Saul Ross. Hats off to Pete and his team. I think they're doing a really good job with testing on campus, over 1,875 tests. Total cumulative cases, 82. And then there's some breakdowns. I only clipped the center part, but they're doing a nice job at using a dormitory for quarantine for those folks that are from out of town, need a place to quarantine, and continue to be very regular in their testing. So good information there. And then the next, okay, so that's it on COVID. I can't give you the medical data that a Dr. Escobar could, but if there's any questions on COVID.
Hey, Eric, this is Rick. One of the measures that that ECTA had put up that we started using were the 5 metrics. One is hospital beds, from an ICU standpoint. Another is the what I'll call the transmissibility rate, which we wanted to be below, less than 1. Another was the number of cases in terms of the rate of increase. I can't recall all 5 of them.
Right. The R naught as well, the spread rate, the R naught rate.
Yeah. Where are we on that? Do you know? Is the county not sharing it?
Well, it's not on their page, so I've got to just go do some more digging around. The DSHS site's pretty slow, not overly responsive, but let me take that as an item, and I'll go see those. I don't think Rachel Sonnet is going to give us the same daily type reporting that ECTA was. Now, potentially the county will appoint a new local health authority.
Yep.
And that person would provide that data for us as well.
Yeah, it just, part of this, and I like you applaud what Pete's doing up at Saul Ross. When I looked at, they've got their quarantine area. They've used 48 of 80 beds or spaces to get students quarantined. That's the good news. Their rate isn't where they want it to be, but they're continuing on with business, getting students in the classroom. And then I talked to Pete the other day, and I know he personally teaches a class. And so he knows what the professors are going through. Good news is only 2 out of the 356 staff up there have COVID. So it's all student related. I guess the only other, and those are statements. The other question I'd ask is, have we at the city ever shut down because of COVID?
No, we have not. We have closed our lobby for in-person transactions, but we've not shut down as a city. We've continued to work. We've implemented temperature checks. We have had some employees that we've quarantined because they've been exposed or had a spouse or a family member test positive for COVID. But we've continued to work every workday of the year.
Now, which in my mind is a great model. And when I think about opportunities for us all to learn, I think the city's got a great model. It's unfortunate at times. The county, I know, has had to shut down at least twice, where they just close the door, send everyone home,
Right.
And which is frankly disappointing. I just hope there's some good learning. They can go back and forth between the meetings that occur about what the updates are. But I'll be quiet. That's
Yeah, one of the things that we did as well, and you see this in a lot of the national write-ups on good practice, is we pivoted into buying laptops for our department head supervisors right off the bat, using some of our CREF funds for that. So that really gave them the opportunity to work remote. And we have had a few supervisors that we've quarantined. None of them have turned up COVID positive, but they've been able to continue on with their work tasks.
Yeah, the Brewster County Appraisal Assessment District Board approved the assessor buying laptops to be able to get their staff, Denise Flores and her team. So when the county shut down, they continued to do their work. But I know I've gotten lots of complaints from people who've said, hey, I needed to go to the county office to get something done, and they're closed. So I can't transact my business. I just find that disappointing.
So we also did install a window in our city hall for transactions. And then as Stephanie explained in the last council meeting in her presentation, she had ramped up getting some of the online DocuSign. So just really working on ways to minimize touch points. You know, these are all those activities when you're in a virus type environment or a poor health type environment, you want to enable. So, you know, hats off. The team's been innovative and really worked towards that. So, well, good. Moving into the next topic on the city property update. This was something that we had really talked about in our budget workshops and through the budget approval process. And the request came back for a more comprehensive list of our buildings, land valuations, cost to maintain. So we've now got that list compiled. Eddie and David are working on assessing some of our longer term building maintenance costs and needs. We should have that done before the end of the year. Really, this will feed into our capital plan for next year. The one critical building we're taking action on is our old schoolhouse, AKA the old Sunshine House, and that RFP will go out next week. But Gio, if you can jump to the next slide for me. This is really an eye chart,
Well,
but but it is the output that we're working on. We're really looking at what's our appraised value, what the footage, what the acres are, what the condition is, annualized budget maintenance, estimated annual maintenance, prior current improvements that we're working on, and then our current needs. So those final four columns are what Eddie and David are helping us really fill in the blanks on right now, using both of their expertise. So that'll be done before the end of the year. We'll have a good product for council to kick off next year. Okay.
Good.
So if there's no questions on that, we can move forward to the next slide. And David.
Okay. Thank you, City Manager. And this, I'm gonna run through this kind of quickly. You can stop me at any point and ask any questions. But I'll start. We'll move to the second slide, Gio, please. Okay, thank you. So we went through phases last year, 1, 2, and 3. 3 being a phase that just kind of moves into this fiscal year. Previous policies and procedures in the building service department have been updated. Code enforcement procedures are now defined. Customer service is taking new directions in our department. And as a department, we're listening and making sure we take actions. As we provide better services, moving into phase 3 and this fiscal year, our goals are better to serve our community through increased customer service, and to properly train and certify our staff are the key to this success in this department for this year. We'll go to slide 2. Thank you. What drives our actions? Mindsets, skill sets, attitudes. Attitudes playing one of the most important roles. Hiring the right people for the job is still the #1 priority for our department. As of this week, we're fully staffed for the first quarter, and we're defining our objectives. as we continue to work as a team so that we are successful in the goals we set. Last fiscal year, we focused on providing a much needed change in fee schedules and ordinances, and we could not be successful last year without the input and approval of the City Council. So I want to thank City Council, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor, and City Manager, and all the departments in helping our department succeed. And one of the objectives for 2021 will be the zoning map and then zoning districts. Solutions to the right type of zoning will be a challenge within itself. We will look once again for council's input and support. We work through zoning and the comprehensive plan for 2021. We'll move to the next slide. So looking ahead, the comprehensive plan and zoning are outdated as a smaller city with around 65,000 in population. Understanding where we are on the map creates economic development challenges. P&Z workshops will be on the list for 2020, 2021. And then what we call smart growth fixes, which I think City Manager Zimmer touched on earlier this year, which will be part of an essential function of how we design the comprehensive plan itself. We want a vibrant community that fosters intelligent economic development. Our codes, our land uses, ordinances are in the updating phase. As we work through the comprehensive plan, we will try to make a modest adjustment and major modifications to give the community of Alpine options based on political will, financial resources, and its an organizational capacity. Conventional zoning practices of the past have separated residential, retail, and office uses. This type of zoning stands in Alpine's way to create walkable neighborhoods, mixed-use zones. So smart growth development provides new ideas and thoughts to make changes that promote economic development. We will be focusing on ordinances that improve quality of life and building safety, always employing citizens' involvement through workshops. So that's part of what we look for in 2021 fiscal year as we move forward with the zoning and the comprehensive redevelopment. We'll go to the next slide. Thank you. So this is just kind of a couple of graphs. We added some new permits and have been more conscious of the actual inspections that we do. COVID-19 tried to disrupt how we operate as a department in regards to actual field inspections. Most cities have taken on the opportunity to implement new ways to perform inspections with remote software applications. We never thought Alpine would benefit from this type of remote inspections, and we felt customer service and building safety would suffer if it was implemented. Our policy is to continue in-person site inspections for health, safety, and welfare for the city of Alpine. So this kind of gives us, this graph gives us a little bit of what type of permits were issued and then how the inspections occurred. We'll move to the next graph.
Hey, David, just a note, it looks like the number of electrical inspections and re-inspections are one and the same. That seems abnormally high. Are we just struggling with electrical contractors, or what's going on there, if you have any comment?
Well, the electrical, part of it has to do with just the actual COs where the electrical services are being inspected for turn-ons for electrical service disconnects and reconnects.
Okay.
So that may be part of how, if you see part of the electrical inspections being for work or actually for turn-on services.
Okay, so I can't use this to interpret whether or not you're finding lots of issues. It's just, and because of electrical, because of the nature, you just got to go up multiple times.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
There's not, I mean, thus far, we've been working with most of the electrical contractors and they've been up to par. They've met code. We haven't had too much issues this year with that. I think part of it has to just do with our policy on reconnecting electricity within the city because we have, you know, property maintenance issues. We want to make sure everything's safe for the citizens of Alpine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We'll move on to the next slide, please, Gio. Thank you. Okay, so code enforcement. Beginning in March 2020, code enforcement began enforcing the municipal ordinances and adopted codes. Citations were written and some citizens appeared in court. It didn't take long before we realized that the municipal court was not really prepared to say, and we had to quickly conduct an audit. Additional support was needed for a better municipal court experience. And as we move into the first quarter of this fiscal year, our approach is additional training, municipal court policy and procedures, and administration functions. So our department's going to be working hand in hand with the municipal court department, and our estimated date to be back on track. And once we find a municipal court judge and get things going is probably going to be the second week of January 2021. That's how far behind we are at this point. But all our policies and procedures haven't changed. We just need to get a little bit better training on that side of it, on that aspect. And I think we will be able to succeed this fiscal year in 2021. So we'll move on to the next slide. Thank you. Yard of the month. The first yard of the month was successful. We had 2 winners that really care about their properties. We wanted to show our support for their hard work by presenting them with a certificate and gift card. Keeping this type of program is important for Alpine, I think. And Tony Catani, our code enforcement officer, did a great job with the Yard of the Month program this year. And I think he's going to continue it on for fiscal 2021. I wish I had some additional photographs, but if you go to Scoops, you'll be able to see everything that they've done. If you go down Avenue E, you'll be able to see the grand prize winner for Yard of the Month residential, and you'll see how wonderful that yard really looks. So we're really happy about how much pride they've taken to make Alpine a nice place to live. So we're pretty happy about that.
Hey, David, did these get published in the Avalanche or anywhere else? I'm probably missed an issue. This is the first time seeing it. This is great stuff.
Well, you know, Roxanne with the Alpine Avalanche has reached out to me, so I believe that she has something going forward from this point.
Great.
Yeah. So we'll go with the next slide. Okay, so 2020, 2021 quarter progressions, quarter 1, quarter 2, 3, and 4. Basically, our goal is a biannual audit for the department. Programs, procedures implemented last fiscal year will be reevaluated during the 3rd quarter of 2021. And hopefully in the 4th quarter, we'll have enough data for the smart growth development strategies. Throughout the year, we'll continue continuing education and challenge ourselves with the new certifications in the building service department. So part of this is cross-training staff, and we believe that's an ongoing process, and that process allows us to manage our department with less effort. So this less effort approach promotes more of a self-management aspect. And so certifications are part of every quarter for the fiscal year. And then of course, 4th quarter is development. And that is the 4th quarter development phase is basically our data, collecting our data from the workshops, the P&Z workshops, and some of the new service programs that we're going to implement as well. So that kind of gives you an oversight of how we're going to divide this. Last year it was divided into phases. This year we've got 4 quarters, and they're very important. And part of it's going to be a lot of workshops. So that's where we're headed. We'll go to the next slide. Okay, so I know Abby Branch is here today. If Gio, if you can unmute her, if she wants to add anything to this, the historical preservation, planning and zoning will be looking at the historical districts and overlays to revise and create a new, better representation of the districts. And this is a pretty comprehensive plan.
That's why.
Abby Ward Branch, a local citizen in Alpine, created a nonprofit 501(c) titled Alpine Historical Association for the preservation of historical buildings in the city of Alpine. I met with her, we had a meeting. She is at this point right now, she has a website that will probably be up and running within a couple of weeks. And AHA operates with a mission of enhancing and promoting the Alpine Historical Association for the benefit of its members. AHA is supported by its membership fees, donations, grant funding, community fundraising, and local events and tours. And then Abby, do you want to comment on this, or should I give the mission statement?
You're doing a great job.
Okay. So,
hello, everyone.
Sure, I'm glad you're not being brief.
What's that? So the mission statement, basically, I'll just read what she wrote me as her mission statement. The mission of the AHA is to help Alpine community revitalize and restore historical buildings, houses, and neighborhoods while building awareness and appreciation of our history and heritage. We are advocates for historic preservation and are a liaison between the community and local government. Most importantly, we are a resource for our private citizens and local businesses. This is a great mission statement, and building services, and I hope the city is proud of what she's going to do and what she's about to start. So as we begin this new comprehensive plan for the city, Abby will be a very important member of our team, and her commitment to this program is extremely commendable, in my opinion. So as we go forth in this fiscal year, the Historical Preservation Association is going to be a big part of what we do. So, thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Did you want to add anything to that?
I think I'm good. I didn't realize I was going to be announced, so I was a little unprepared, but I appreciate it. We have a lot of good things planned that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm excited to get going.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much. We look forward to working with you. Go ahead, Rick. Rick, did you have a question?
No, I think we're good.
Oh, okay.
And then
we'll move on to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so Park Hill and Cooper submitted plans for the new Alpine High School in September, and currently the plans are still under review. Imperial Construction, I believe out of Weatherford, has been awarded the general contractor for this project. They're still awarding subcontractor for the project itself, so that won't occur until sometime within the last part of October, first part of November. A tentative date has been set for October 19th to begin phase 1. In this phase, I'm going to be brief about this because what I want to do is I want to actually take the timeline report of all the phases that will happen through this construction process for Alpine High School and publish it on the city website so that every citizen, city council member, mayor pro tem can all at your leisure see how things are progressing. So that part, that's a big 5-page document, and part of that will be published on the website so everybody has access to it. But for the most part, beginning in October, on October 19th, probably more around October 22nd, we'll have a demo phase, and that's part of the mobilization, and which that mobilization includes placing of construction trailers, installing security fencing and site storage, and begins a demo process of it all. Phase 1 is part of the demo, utilities, and mobilization, and that'll end in October, well, actually in December 2020. And then phase 2B, which you'll be more familiar with once I publish it on the website, will go through December 2021. So this project is scheduled from around October, November 2020, all the way to the latter part of 2022. And I plan to publish a more detailed construction phase chart and report on the city's website, so stay tuned for that. And part of the school board, I know I'm going to have at least 1 to 2 members of the school board as an oversight and during part of the inspection processes. So they'll always be on board with the contractor, the city, and the school board will be hand in hand communicating at all times throughout this process. So.
Hey, David, is the issue about dump tonnage and all that, is that resolved and behind us now, or is that still yet to be worked?
That is not resolved or behind us. However, that's been made through an email to Imperial Construction. So we're working through those, and that'll be part of, before any building permits are issued, we will have that in a pre-construction meeting, and there'll be letters introduced through disposal systems, whether it be part of it being at this Texas disposal and the city's on-site disposal system. All those letters will come through, and we'll have a more definitive answer for that before any process of the building process starts.
Great,
or the
thank
demo process. Yeah. So it's definitely on the books.
Thanks.
Did that answer your question?
Sure.
Okay.
Perfect. Any other questions for David?
Yes, David, got a couple of comments.
Sure.
First of all, great job. I think you've gone beyond on this on your job. Also, I like the idea of presenting awards and recognizing folks for their lawns. It goes with Keep Alpine Beautiful. So that's awesome. Do you have a committee for that, or how is that? How are they chosen?
No, we don't have a committee. We like citizen participation mainly. I think that this is the first year, Mayor, so I think we're going to see it evolve in 2021. And it's just basically by, if someone wants to nominate someone, that's how we take that criteria and come to a judgment on who actually wins. So we've had a few month winners. We've had August, May, September winners, and then of course the grand prize winner was by unanimous vote. So, but there is no per se a committee.
And again, great job, and I'm glad they're being published in the Avalanche, so people recognize them, and it'll kind of inspire other people to do the same.
Yeah, Roxanne Hill does a great job.
Thank you again.
Yeah.
If I may, I'd like to also say thank you, David. Excellent report. I see a lot of good things happening out there, and I certainly look forward to hearing more and with the Alpine Historical Association. That sounds great.
Thank you, Councilman.
Oh, David, this is Roxanne Hill from the Avalanche. I just want to say thank you for the compliments, and you're doing a great job as the building official. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Much appreciated.
Any more comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and move over to city utility update. Scott?
Good evening. How are y'all doing?
Good, doing good.
I'll just kind of skim through, and then if y'all have any questions, just stop me at any time and let me know. We making progress on the Skyway Gardens project on Lechuguilla. Met with the architect and engineers and project manager down there a few weeks ago. We actually signed some utility agreements to get the gas line installed on that road, and also to install a water and sewer tap and fire line for the facility. So we're actually going out there tomorrow at 2 o'clock to perform the first inspection on the sewer tap. So gas department has extended the city main down Lechuguilla to facilitate gas at that location. And they're right on schedule. They've done a great job on it so far. So we're looking good. That project has gotten back on schedule, and hopefully we'll start seeing that thing come to a close here pretty soon. One of the other big things happening right now, we're pretty happy to announce the SCADA issues that the city's been having for months on end, or probably longer, will come to a close hopefully in the next week or two. Our James Sipes, who's the individual who's helping us reconfigure and go to a 450 meg radio system, will be out next Tuesday. And he and our project manager, Shane Evans, will begin getting the radios programmed. And they've been putting the towers up, getting everything installed. So we'll get everything off of manual mode and start going back into an automated mode within the next 3 to 5 days after installation. So we're really excited about that. It not only cuts down on overtime a whole lot, but the system's reliability is much more in check when we have the SCADA going, because it fills in those gaps at 4 a.m. when operators really hate to be out there flipping switches. So we're really happy about that. Also, we're refurbishing and looking into some well rehab on some of the wells that we have out in the Mooskies well field, and refurbishing Roberts number 5 as well. It's had some issues lately. It'll go back in service in the next week or so. And we also refurbished the lower well, which is located at the bottom of A Mountain. It's a large well, and it had been down for quite a while. And we actually upsized that well, and it's producing quite a bit more, which alleviates how much we have to run some of the smaller wells. So we're making advancements on that. We're pretty happy. By the next time I come to council, I'll have a full presentation on what we're going to do, what our vision is going to be in the next 2 or 3 years with the well field, and what we're looking at production capable wise, and what advancements we're going to need to make to try to keep some problems from occurring in the future. So also at the wastewater treatment plant, we're on track. Sorry, Gio, you can leave it on this slide for a couple more minutes. We have a permit renewal for our wastewater treatment plant. Has been in action for several months now. We just pulled some composite samples and sent them off this last week to have the final phase of this done. So we see that probably getting put into motion probably the month of November, possibly December of this year. So we're in good shape with TCQ on that, and that's moving along as planned. Also, the engineers will be out this month, actually about a week and a half from now, to get the field work done, to get the last of the specification work done before RFPs go out for the aerator replacement at the wastewater plant, which the city's been waiting 7 years to have done. So we're really extremely happy to have that happening right now as well. So, and while they're out, they're also going to have their engineering crew out to do the survey work for the east side sewer extension proposal that we're looking into to try to facilitate the utilities out on that side of town. Next slide, please, Gio. Something we've done in the recent months, just to get a quick overview, is there was not really a chain of command once you got past the director of utilities positions. So within the department, we figured out a format that would work and have been able to add some new positions. So I just wanted to include that for the council to kind of see a better layout of what we're looking at. We're almost fully staffed. One change we've made is that there's actually a second meter reader who started today. And so we're also happy about that. We're trying to implement some changes in the way we're doing the meter reading, and hopefully he's going to facilitate us moving forward with that. So we have hired 3 individuals in the last 30 days or so. That rounds out our staffing at this time. And just so everyone knows who the faces are, we have Samantha Holloway, who's operator 1 in our operations division. Jonathan Garza, operator 1 in our distribution and collections division. And he came on today. Samantha came on September 7th. And on October 12th, we have Melvin Washington coming in, and he will also be in the operations division. Those 2 positions, they handle nothing but water wells, water sampling, QA, QC issues, just things across the gamut. So the reason we kind of segmented it down and broke it into 4 different departments within the department is to get people more compartmentalized and more proficient in their particular disciplines. And everyone's cross-trained, but we want to make sure that we have right people in the right place and we're using the right tool for the job. So We also
Scott,
did
I've
have
got
one
a-
trend. Yes,
Got
go
a
ahead.
comment. I was up there about a week and a half ago, and out there at the wastewater treatment plant, it looks great.
Well, I appreciate it. They've been working hard out there.
Yeah, that old shack is gone. The guys are now in a comfortable building. The whole area looks fantastic as a whole. Does everybody have the required licenses that's required by TECQ?
What we're required to have is myself, I'm double C licensed. The city requires a B wastewater plant, a C for groundwater for any functions. We're working with the contract operator who's a double A to umbrella us under the B requirement for now, and I'm in the testing process for that. Johnny Marquez also has C groundwater, and Mike Macias at the wastewater plant has his C wastewater treatment. So we have somebody on site in any function 5 days, or actually 7 days a week now that we have the wastewater plant staggered. So, and we have Richard Wiley will be testing next Thursday for his C wastewater, as well as Blake Edwards for his C groundwater treatment. So we hope that goes well.
Okay, good deal.
And I just want one other note is we did have David Menard. He transferred over into water distribution and collections as well. And his first day was this last Monday. So we're glad he stayed with the city, and we're sure pleased to have him over there helping us out. Next slide, please, Joe. Just a quick picture there. It's kind of some of the stuff the guys have been contending with. That's a 10-inch water main up on Highway 6790 on the west side of town. We've had about half a dozen of these since it rained, and that's generally an issue coming into this time of year. Even a half an inch of rain will do a lot of funny things for the ground. So we've had a lot of water interruptions, but we've not had to kill the system for any reason. We've been happy with that. So our crews have become very efficient, and they're really doing a great job. I can't say enough good things about the work they're doing out there. So next slide, please, Jill. Just a couple of notes on the airport as well. We have an ongoing project with Lochner Aviation and TxDOT on the lighting project. It's moving ahead. Everything's on schedule at this time. We've moved into the plan review phase. So we have I believe a 15-day window and follow up with them and get this project on schedule so that construction will start in January. So moving ahead with that, it's doing real well. Fuel sales have been down for the last few months. I had noted in there briefly that I believe in June and July, we were selling about 6,000 gallons per month, which is drastically down from where we normally are. In August, we did 10,000. In September, we did 14,000 gallons. So we've had a lot of involvement from the United States Army and National Guard. And we've had a lot of calls about some potential maneuvers in the area. So we attribute completely to Cbp and those guys for out there hitting the ground and doing the work and certainly buying a lot of fuel from us in the process. So we're happy to accommodate them. So I look for some more of the green helicopters to be in the area in the next few months, hopefully. So also, Cbp is proposing a helipad out there at this time. David and I've talked briefly on it. He's gone through the plan review process, and we're talking a few things over on our end as well. So I'd like to see things come to fruition one of these days and see Customs and Border Patrol be able to expand their capabilities out there, which is good for the community as a whole. So, next slide, please, Jill.
Hey, Scott,
And it's just a picture of, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, just, I presume you're working with the Airport Advisory Board on where that helipad would potentially go?
Yes, sir. Actually, there was a meeting at noon today, and it was discussed briefly. I know that the advisory board is going to recommend to the city council to proceed with the project, granted it's in accordance with Federal Aviation Administration and TxDOT guidelines, and make sure that there's not any conflicts there. I do have a schematic if you're interested on it. I can email you the information on that, but we do have some pretty good info on. And it's just to give you a rough idea, it will be basically due north of the current Cbp location between the taxiway and the front of their building. So.
Yeah, my only concern is egress and access in terms of, those coming out from the hangars that continue to be, further to the east and being able to get them out. So I hear comments all the time about CBP, where they currently sit and when they move the helicopters in and out. I think it's great if they're going to have a pad. I just think it's going to be really important that there's a good discussion about where it sits to meet their needs and make sure we don't lose aircraft tie-down locations out there on the ramp.
I couldn't agree more. And actually, I sent a correspondence back to Mr. Van Vliet with TxDOT Aviation and making just such an inquiry today about its location and its proximity to the apron. So those are the things we're going to want to line out before the hopefully the next council meeting, so that we can have our recommendations in order to see if they are or not going to be in accordance with the advisory boards.
Yeah, good.
But certainly, yes, we're very aware of that situation. And just for everyone's information, this was the Chinook that flew in off the 1st Armored Division out of El Paso. It's just a picture of our guys filling it up, 1,000 gallons at a time there. So next slide.
I was out there that day, Scott, when they were refueling it. And I was just looking at how much fuel was going into that helicopter, which I said, man, that's good. That's awesome.
Yeah,
and,
they're flying about 2 missions a day, and they go through about 1,300 to 1,800 gallons when they do that. So they burn a lot of fuel.
Especially that particular chopper.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Outside of that, the biggest things we've got going in-house that you'll see come to fruition and will be presented to the council in the coming months is a groundwater asset management and development project. And basically, in a nutshell, the scope of work it covers research and groundwater data, working with some of the area drillers and looking at some of our observation wells. And inevitably, what we'd like to do is put our bigger producers that are not affecting people in service and try to alleviate using a lot of these smaller wells that are very inefficient with electricity and very other aspects. I mean, it makes more sense to have a good 100 gallon a minute well in one area instead of 3 or 4, 32 gallon a minute wells. So we're trying to look through our inventory, see what our production capabilities are, and really try to make the situation much more streamlined and efficient. We were able to close out over a dozen electric meters in the last year for facilities that we're no longer using, or things where we still had electric meters hooked up that components we're not using anymore. So we're really trying to stay on top of those and get rid of these insular costs that are unnecessary. And of course, I mentioned a minute ago the feasibility study for East Side Sewer expansion. Basically, again, what they're going to come out and do is get some elevations, expand on the data they collected last time to see a broader picture of what exactly the costs are going to be to try to incorporate and construct pretty much a turnkey collection system on that side of town, because as many of you know from the Holiday Inn East, it's we're very limited on water and there's no sewer going that way. So we're looking to rectify that in the coming months if it's going to be possible, and if the council can come to a consensus on a plan we put together. So those are the things we're looking at right now. If anybody has any questions or need any other information on that.
I would like to see the chart, like the organizational chart with the employee names.
Oh, okay. I'd be happy to, if you want, I can email you one of those, or however your preference is.
Yeah, that'll be fine. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Yes, I do have a question, and it's regarding, I'm assuming the overflow valve is acting up again on the storage tank up on the hill, and the water runs freely down. I believe it's Avenue 9. What's the issue? Is that corrected? Is working on it, or?
Well, that particular instance you're talking about a week and a half ago, where it overflowed for 4 days, is because the entire system, as it were constructed and put into use on a web-based system, is no longer in effect. So sometimes you'll have things like, we have things called clay valves. They're in the ground. They're automated valves. They open and close and communicate with ground storage tanks and wells and tell things, hey, I need you to come on. I need you to fill this tank. If these things don't communicate, things like shut the valve off so it won't overflow the tank, they just don't work in unison. So we're having to manually run all that. And the reason that was happening is we have a check valve that had failed. It has since been taken care of, but that was what was causing the upper tank at the top of A Mountain to overflow. Under normal conditions, that should never happen. And I know in the past, I know prior to me starting here, Johnny said it happened all the time, but there's a lot of things that can be done to keep that from happening. There's just some deferred maintenance issues that as we find them, we attack them and rectify them. So, but that's what the cause of the most recent incident was.
Well, I hope you can get that rectified, because in the years that I've been here, it's been a constant source of water running down 9th Street, causing potholes. And, we haven't had an accident there with the water. So hopefully we can get this thing solved and put to bed.
I agree. It's just, I just hope the council considers and remembers it took a really long time for things to get as messed up as they are. And we're working pretty diligent, but we obviously have fiscal confines and restrictions on RFPs and time. It takes so long to get some of this stuff done. Yeah. I don't want y'all to think it's on the back burner, not happening. It just going through the motions, a little painful sometimes. So we're on it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. Any more comments?
Scott, once SCADA gets fixed, will that resolve the issue, or that's an issue above and beyond the SCADA changes?
It's going to rectify all of the short circuiting as far as things not communicating. Now, it's important for me to note that in unison with all this happening at the same time, having to go out for RFPs probably looks like maybe next week, if we're on schedule, to have a company come in that's all, what they do is very specific. They rebuild these clay valves. So we have 7 of them. They all need work. So what we're going to do is have these overhauled at the same time the SCADA is being incorporated and turned on, so that hopefully it does take care of it right now. It's going to take a couple of weeks, for maybe even 2 or 3 weeks, to really work the bugs out of the SCADA system. But to answer your question, theoretically, it should alleviate it. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Granted, we can resolve some of the minor and the issues with the clay valve. All that stuff's fixable. We just have to have the SCADA running first to see what other components are actually not communicating properly and need to be taken care of. So.
Okay. Any more comments?
I have one
Questions?
more. I have a question. I was just asked. I got a text message, and I was being asked if Scott had any certifications under the gas department.
Currently, no. I have gone through them all, but I'm not required to have them at this time, so I do not go through the $3,000 in week-long school it takes to keep those current. I have gone through the training at GASTI. I do not currently hold those certifications.
So Randy doesn't have a backup in case he's not there or out on vacation?
Are you asking me?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes.
Well, Randy, the way he generally works, now there are other individuals certified. As a matter of fact, we've got an employee this week. Eric is actually, I think, going through his certifications this week. We have 2-3 individuals certified over there in total. And Andrew will be going through his certifications in January. Eric is going through his now. So God willing and the creek don't rise, we'll have 5 total on site every time anything gas is being taken care of. And anybody who's not certified does not make any decisions gas department oriented other than administrative, being fees, taps, things like that. Randy handles the field ops all the way. And it's up to Randy to decide who he's going to have as his second command over there, but he does have options to choose from. So.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Then let's go ahead and move to finance updates. Megan.
Good evening, Council. This is the best time of year for us. It is our fiscal year end. As you can see in my little meme there, it's awesome. Said no one in budget or accounting ever. It has actually been a good end of the year. Gio, if you can go to the next slide. I wanted to kind of give you an overview of how we ended. I do want Council to be aware that this is very tentative. This is an estimate. We currently look like an estimated total fund balance of 2.3 million. That is a slight increase of around 600,000 from the prior year, a little less. But we do have some outstanding expenses that as we get in our end of the year invoices, statements, our utility bills, some of our paving projects, our encumbered purchase orders, these all do affect that fund balance. This is money that may not have already been encumbered. We typically don't encumber your TXU. Sometimes people think that, oh, well, these are, little bills that just come in. Well, over time, these little bills do add up. So I kind of wanted to give you an estimate. The city is on track and we are doing good with building our fund balance. We did budget this year to utilize part of that fund balance to make up for the continuation of the street projects that you guys had approved prior. Of course, some of that money is coming out of our reserves that we had put aside earlier this year. So our general fund is looking healthy, like always. I'm excited to see kind of where we're at in 2 months. Ideally, pretty much any outstanding invoice should be within the city's hands within the next 60 days. So I'll have a clearer picture and understanding of where we're at. The next slide, please, Gio. This is our hot fund. Also, even though we didn't have as good of a season, we still had an excellent season considering the current situation. We did bring in a little bit more than we spent, which does raise our total fund balance slightly to a little over 1 million. This is a dedicated account. Although it doesn't show anything being restricted, it is restricted by state law. This is our hotel tourism money, so it has to be used for the things that the state actually designates, and those are those 8 categories, from advertising and promotion to promotion of the arts, historical, sporting events, that kind of idea. The big outstanding expense from this account would be any outstanding advertising contracts. I know Chris Ruggia has done a tremendous job trying to get everything in, especially on the invoice side, especially with the advertising, to make sure we got back on track and had everything so we could record it correctly in this fiscal year. He's also worked with all of the events, making sure that their invoices are pretty much on my desk either the day after or as soon as the event is settled up and figured out their financial part. So we've gotten most of those in as well. Next slide, please. So slightly different with the enterprise funds. They don't have a net or a fund balance. They actually have a net position. So there's a few additional things that go on with this one. Our beginning balance was about 12.3 for the water, wastewater, and sanitation, and we're ending with an estimated 12.4. So it's a slight increase, but not significant. But as you've heard from Scott's report, there are a lot of projects out there, and he's working every angle to ensure he can get everything fixed and running with what limitations he has, especially on the financial side. Some of their big outstanding expenses, of course, are electric bill, Texas disposal, any monthly invoices, engineering projects that have the services were provided in last fiscal year, but we get billed this fiscal year. Leased vehicles, and of course our encumbered purchase orders. Texas disposal is a big one. We average about 140,000 a month for that one. So our slight increase will pretty much be eaten up by that one invoice.
Hey, Megan, Rick, sorry to screw up your rhythm here. We're just using the water, wastewater, sanitation one. The net position really takes into account assets minus liabilities, I presume. And so the real number from a council to look at is the unrestricted that says not quite $2.7 million of dollars available. You still got some outstanding expenses, but am I missing it, or is that the right way to look at it?
No, that is the correct way to look at it. It will just decrease slightly once we get all the invoices in, the unrestricted bill.
Thank you. Okay.
Next slide, Gio. This is our airport. Also, it is considered enterprise, so it's a net position. Like Scott had pointed out, we did not do as well in our fuel sales, despite the fact that we did raise our fuel prices the prior year. We just didn't sell as much. With the limitations on travel and the extra restrictions, it did kind of deter people from going that little bit of distance out of their way to visit Alpine. One of the things that I wanted to point out is, of course, their monthly statements. If they purchased any fuel towards the end of the month, that will be a large bill that we will have to pay. Those are not typically encumbered. Overall, though, for the first time, their revenue is actually higher than their current expenses. Usually they're about even with each other, or their expenses are actually slightly higher. This does take into consideration that the airport did receive some CARES funding, which is, of course, the money we received through the pandemic, and they utilize it to pay for part of their required 10% matching for the lighting system on the engineering, and the remaining went towards the actual construction side. So that was a huge relief to the airport. We actually did not borrow or transfer money from another department or fund or enterprise group. They actually were able to move forward with everything on their own. Next slide, please. This is our gas department. So the gas department roughly started off with 2.774, and the estimated end balance is 2.768. This was one of the only departments that literally matched expense to revenue. They spent 100% of what they brought in, and we still have some outstanding expenses. In regards to their monthly gas purchases, this is the WTG bills for the portion that we buy and then resell to the public. Their monthly statements, leased vehicles, and of course, encumbered purchase orders. So there's several that are pretty close to each other as far as knowing if we actually increased our fund or net positions based on what outstanding invoices and expenses we have coming in. So the next 2 months are pretty crucial just to kind of get that, where are we at, how well we did. We are being a lot more, I guess we're scrutinizing a lot more in regards to the purchases to make sure we encumber correctly, verifying service dates to ensure that, is it an expense for this first fiscal year, or is this an expense that we need to have encumbered to the last fiscal year? So we're taking that extra precaution and making sure that we look at everything from invoice dates to service dates to completion dates. That's really important, especially on the engineering side. To make sure that we apply those expenses to the correct fiscal year. Any questions?
No, ma'am. I don't have any.
Next slide, please. So taking a different spin, we've been, of course, doing our leadership training, and I'm very enthusiastic and proud of the finance department, which does include the utility billing, and kind of wanted to give council an idea of our direction. We did set 4 prior goals this past fiscal year. We accomplished 2 of them with our cash handling policy and procedures, with our cash points, which are those departments that actually physically take money, and our investment policy. So out of the 4, we accomplished 2, and we accomplished them within the deadlines that had been set for, or that I had set for our department. So we have actually 3 this upcoming year. Next slide, please. The first one is the continuation to establish and implement a purchasing policy that follows state and federal guidelines. This one has been a little bit more difficult. We don't want to just make a recommendation and throw it out there and it not actually work on behalf of the city of Alpine and make it harder for our departments. But at the same time, we also need to make sure we follow the state and federal guidelines. They do set specific policies and procedures. As we all know, the $50,000 you got for an RFP, that is required. So we're making sure that all of the items we put together for our policy is something that the city can follow and that we don't violate any of those guidelines. It also will apply to our grants. Since we now have a grant writer, we're out there making some bigger purchases and taking all aspects as we can. So we want to ensure that we meet those federal guidelines as well. The original timeline was for that one was 12/31/2020. So we're still in good shape. Goal 2 is to continue to provide and improve transparent financial records. We've gone and kind of taken down some of our finance information on our website to update it to follow the correct procedures. One of the big things that's been brought up over and over and some of the trainings has been fraud. And although you want to be as transparent as possible, you also don't want to be as transparent that they can hack you or they can basically write fraudulent checks and you end up losing money. So some of the things that we're modifying is providing the required information that the state requests us to provide, but also ensuring that we don't provide information that could get us in predicament with someone committing fraud. An example would be our check registers. We provided enough information that anyone could go in and actually basically take a check number based off of what we've already put online and just use the next one and be able to provide the format and just write a hot check on behalf of the city. So we're gonna clean that up. One of the guidelines for that one is also the transparency stars. It's the finance department's kind of pat on the back on the state level saying you're as transparent as you're required to be. You're providing all the information to the public in a clear and understandable manner. So they provided us a list of guidelines to follow as you work through the program to get the stars. And our last one, which is a pretty big one, we've actually been working on this one since December of 2019. We've had a couple setbacks, but we've come to a better understanding of what council and what the city needs to establish effective capital asset procedures and record keeping. So we're really good at keeping track of our assets. Our departments are really good at transferring assets between each other. So it's making sure that that communication is there, that yes, the water department can give the gas department a vehicle, but on books, we need to ensure that the person who utilizes it is actually the one who has the asset in their listings. So Able Hinojos has done a great job with tracking down our big assets, which would be our vehicles, our heavy equipment. As you saw earlier in Eric's presentation, we have our buildings. Those are all assets. As we make improvements and we make changes, it's making sure that that communication back with our department can record that correctly. So when you get your fund balance and your net positions, you'll notice that one of those line items to determine where we're at is basically what is your capital assets? What is the value that you have? And we want to ensure that that number is correct. We've been coming up with a procedure we hope that everyone can follow. It's really just a communication thing, a simple form, a phone call, an email, just saying, hey, this is what we'd like to do. As a result of going through this, we've also saved the city some money, focusing on our insurance. Everything is typically insured, especially our heavy equipment in our vehicles, and making sure that, you know, those that we're not utilizing and they're ready to be auctioned off aren't insured. There isn't a reason for the city to keep insuring something that they're not going to use. So long term, it's helped us to clean up that side of our assets and then to make sure that those items that aren't insured are actually insured. So those are our three main goals. I have sat down with our staff and they each have their own individual goals as well. And as we complete them, we do our little hooray, but at the same time, then we add our next one based on where we're at with our finances and of course the direction that the council wants to take. If there's something specific they're looking for, maybe it's a new goal that we add to our list. But we're all very excited for this year. We did a little staff training. It's new year, you know, new changes, and we're just excited to take this head on and have a perfect audit. Now I just jinxed myself by saying that, but that's what we're headed for. Any questions?
I hope you have a perfect audit.
Thank you.
Meet myself, but great job, Megan. And every time I hear you say that we're in good shape, I'm happy.
We are, and I'm very proud. I even told Eric, I have to say that for the first time at the end of a fiscal year, we weren't scrambling to find purchase orders and documentation. And on September 30th, I actually was very nervous because I wasn't sure. I'm usually rushing to get things done. And I kind of sat there like, wow, this is nice.
Well, great job.
Megan, good report, and it looks definitely that we're in good standing financially. I have a quick question for you, just to pick your brain. The pandemic, apparently it hasn't, or the results of it hasn't really affected us that much as far as incoming revenue for the water bill and or the gas bill. So I guess that's good, isn't it?
It is, Ramon. We actually, I think the city took that initiative. We're not going to cut you off. We're going to work with our citizens. We'll put you on a payment plan. It wasn't until, the very end where if you were 4 or 5 months behind that we actually took any action. But we made it very transparent, very clear that we're here for the citizens. We want to help. We want to make sure that, if they're having issues, that we try to address them. If it's not something that I can solve or the utility billing clerks can solve, we take it to the city manager. But the city, through this whole crisis or pandemic, has actually done really well. We've made the cutbacks when needed to, especially on our tourism side, knowing that the revenue may not be as strong as we had hoped. But overall, with, just going day to day and evaluating where we at, what funds can we utilize, what resources are available to us, using the CARES Act for the necessities, not the want list or the wish list, but what can we do to ensure that the city can move forward and we're not closing our doors. We're not, having to halt business. And, we kept all of our employees full time. The city is very lucky, and I'm very proud of all the changes and direction we took.
Great, and congratulations to all. Great work.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Megan. We'll move over to public hearings now. Eric, you want to take this one?
Sure. Let me pull that up. First public hearing, it's our first and only. It's the public hearing on citizens' views and comments concerning the Texas Parks and Wildlife Grant application to develop Pueblo Nuevo Park. The city is requesting $200,000 in funds and is required to provide a $200,000 match from city funds if awarded.
Okay. I know, Lucy, you've got something to say on this.
Well, in the public hearing, only citizens can make a comment.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We didn't receive any written comments.
Didn't receive any. Okay. Then let's move on to item 7, consent agenda. Minutes, financial reports, department written reports, board appointments, etc. And notice to the public, the following items are routine administrative nature. The council has been furnished with background and support material on each item, or it has been discussed at a previous meeting. All items will be acted upon by one vote without being discussed separately unless requested by council member, in which event the item or items will immediately be withdrawn for individual consideration in its normal sequence after the items not requiring separate discussion have been acted upon. The following, the remaining items will be adopted by one vote. City manager.
Yes, there's 4 items on the consent agenda. The first one is the approval of minutes from City Council meeting on September 15th, 2020. The second is the approval of Resolution 2020-10-08 for closing of 5th Street, Highway 118 between Holland and Avenue E for Art Walk on November 20th and 21st of 2020. The third item is the approval of the City Attorney's August 2020 invoice. And the fourth item is the approval of Alexandra Tackett for an at-large member for the Parks Board from the Friends of Big Bend Parks.
Okay,
Mayor, I propose we approve the consent agenda as written.
Okay, is there a second? There's a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, I see them. All those against, likewise. Motion carries. Thank you. And we'll move over to item 8, information or discussion items. Discuss information provided by TML requesting support and a local resolution to allow for the expenditures of municipal hot revenues by the city for construction or improvement in municipal parks. And
Yeah,
city manager,
that's
Go
okay.
ahead.
I'd let you read it. I read enough of these. The information discussion item I included in the packets. City of Fredericksburg has crafted a resolution, and several other cities are working back with TML to look at the utilization of the hotel occupancy tax funds for park improvements. I wanted to bring that to council for discussion. There's also an initiative at the state level around the use of those funds for dark skies and lighting type initiatives. But you know, the one on our agenda today is relative to the use of those dollars. As you saw in Megan's report, we currently have a balance of a little over $1 million, $1,014,558 in our hotel occupancy tax fund. So really the question is, you know, do we want to continue to use that to really drive tourism and use the core 8 principles that those dollars get used at, or does council want to contemplate working back with TML and being able to use a portion of that for park improvements? Certainly the argument is that parks are something that does attract visitors to a particular community. That was the argument that the city of Fredericksburg made. People visiting there were not just visiting to tour down their main street, but they were also using other amenities in the town. So, but just wanted to bring that up in front of council and get y'all's thoughts and views and perspective on it.
Okay. Yes, sir. Thought you had to raise your hand, Mr. Stevens.
No. So I'll go ahead and get the ball rolling since it's out there. So at least get the dial, because we can't do much until we get a motion one way or the other.
Well, this is just an information and discussion item.
Yeah.
Councilor Stevens.
I'm sorry. I was reaching a little bit ahead.
Okay. All righty. Eric, I mean, I'd go with TML and a request. I think that's a good idea because, I mean, parks do attract your visitors, especially, you know, during summertime and spring break when the kids are along with the parents. And I think that would be a great idea just to rev up our parks.
I agree. I mean, when I used to work for the chamber sometime back, we always had families that would always stop and ask where they could get down to stretch and walk their dogs, or of course the kids, or somewhere to just go and eat a quick snack or whatever. So I'm most definitely on for it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Anybody else?
Yes, Mayor. Just to get this straight, in my mind is what this is really saying, that we can request support through a local resolution that we can expend municipal hot funds for construction improvements at our municipal parks, which means that of the $1 million that we have reserved in the municipal fund, if we agree to go through that resolution, we can use some of those funds to make improvements in our parks. That's what this is saying.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So from a procedural perspective, we would be approving a resolution, working back with TML, and then there would have to be some state approvals on this. And my sense is how it would lay out, Ramon, would be the state would probably give the thumbs up and give either probably a percentage allocation of your total revenue for a year, similar to what they do for enhancement of arts and some of the other sections within that hotel occupancy tax fund right now. So I think that's how it would roll out. If we decided next council meeting, if council approved a resolution, then we would submit that in with the Fredericksburg one into TML and let them go to work. We do know, I mean, obviously we just had a public hearing on the Pueblo Nuevo Park, and we've got an action item on the park. It's probably our high ticket item right now that we're looking at. You know, so we've got that particular project. Eddie's also looking back at Coconut Park and that walking path over there and redoing that walking path. It's a half mile or 2,700 feet. So there's some substantive projects that normally we may not fund out of our $40,000-$50,000 a year capital spend in parks. But I think ultimately we would want it to be structured so that council would approve that as part of your annual spend plan and know specifically what your fund balance is and what monies would be moved out of that and put into reserve.
Could that also mean that, for example, monies could be moved out or shifted over to upgrade, let's say, for example, our soccer or our baseball fields so that we can maybe sponsor tournaments in the future where we all have outside teams coming in to play here and hopefully we'll stay here while they visit Alpine. The other thing is that I'm thinking about, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but the application for the $200,000 for Texas Parks and Wildlife grant, could some of that money be used as backup or a match for the park over at Pueblo Nuevo Park?
My sense is that that would be the formality that the state would put in place, that those larger type projects, whether it's the city providing a match for Texas Parks and Wildlife Grant Fund or the city funding, as you shared, like a field construction to enhance the parks, to bring in other outside entities. And so I think that really fits into the spirit of what's being contemplated through TML right now by other cities.
But if we look at the TML resolution that was put forward to Fredericksburg, while it could in the future, if approved by the state, support the expenditure dollars to Pueblo Nuevo, that would certainly work. But today, our input is all about would we support such a resolution, but it still has to go before the Texas State Legislature, which doesn't occur until next year. So just think about the legislative process. It generally takes 3 to 5 years to get anything through the legislature from a movement standpoint, unless TML is going to accelerate this thing. So in my view, I think it's the right thing to go do, but I don't think we're going to see anything again for 3 to 5 years before we could actually do anything with it. So it's not going to impact budget immediately or anything else going on. So that's one comment I would make. I think the second comment I'd make is supporting this resolution, given we're doing this in the future, would certainly give the council flexibility to do something, not required to, but it certainly gives the council latitude. And we've all talked about, how much money right now, as directed by the state legislature, requires us to spend half the hot money on advertising. I do think for us to be successful in this discussion, we're going to have to figure that out as well, because I think that's the bigger issue to go work as opposed to this. But I think this is the right thing to go do. But I do think, Eric, we're going to want to think about how we influence the legislature this next fiscal year relative to the bigger issue that is Alpine specific, as well as support this.
Good. Good.
That comment, Rick, I think we'll find out after November 3rd, how our legislature is going to pan out. And hopefully we'll get some folks that are friendly towards us on the hot monies.
It still takes legislative action, so I agree.
Yeah, I understand that, but somebody to sponsor it, to get it in there.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll bring back resolution. Gio really has the constructs of it prepared from an Alpine perspective. I'll bring that back on the 20th meeting as an action item.
Okay, item number 2, Eric.
Yeah, item number 2, let me go over to that, is the discussing the future city council meeting locations and the use of Zoom. So we've been here on Zoom now for, gosh, since about April. And we've, had some local workshops in person in the Civic Center. I do know the audio in the Civic Center is not great, but we're certainly working on some speakers and things like that, microphones to improve the audio. We've also got November 3rd coming up, which will be election day. Council chambers in the Civic Center will be being used that day. So really wanted to, instead of sending out an email, thought we just talk about it on the meeting tonight. So, I'm comfortable setting up whatever, council is most comfortable with. We can certainly do hybrid, having Zoom and live. Right now, the governor's continued to approve his executive order, renew his executive order monthly to allow for the creation of a quorum using the virtual environment. Now, certainly, if he did not approve that in a subsequent month, then in order to achieve a quorum, you would have to have 4 people physically present in a single location.
I think that's something we need to consider. Also, the fact that we need to definitely improve the audio there at the Civic Center, because it's horrible. I think council really needs to look at it, and once and if the audio gets improved, then perhaps we could return back to that format at the Civic Center. But would we allow X number of participants as far as guests, and then the rest would be on Zoom like it says here?
Yeah, well, even an evening like tonight, I think the max we've had online at any given time has been 41 or 42. Civic Center's 8,000 square feet. You comfortably hold 150. Obviously, the local government fits into those exemptions. But when I say comfortably hold 150, that's with proper social distancing, spacing out of the chairs and whatnot. Probably at 35 to 40 people, you could certainly use the north section, which is what we typically use. When you get out to closer to 100 people, it's easier to use the main section, having people face traditionally where we have a stage, having council up there. Like I said, we've used it for a couple workshops. We're going to use it tomorrow for the lighting workshop. And it's been very effective. People are very good at keeping their mask on, taking their temperature when they come in. So we're able to accomplish those. We've also got a new camera in our arsenal that we're going to be able to live stream all future events. We've did that with the emergency services workshop. We'll certainly be doing that tomorrow with the lighting workshop as well. Gives people another way to view the council meeting without having to log into Zoom. It'll be a live stream. They won't have any audio capacity, but a lot of folks just want to watch what's going on. They don't want to say anything. So we're certainly prepared to deliver with that capacity as well.
Eric and Mayor, in one of my cities, we've been successfully doing hybrid city council meetings where the council meets in person, but they have all the apparatus set up the same way we set up here in Alpine, so that 1 or 2 of the council members, if they don't want to show up in person, they can show up by Zoom, and the public can either attend, but we limit how many people can come into the room, but the public can also attend by Zoom and watch it on YouTube. is a hybrid model you could use if y'all wanted to do that for a period of time before you went back to regular meetings.
Yeah, Eric, I'm in favor of the hybrid model. Said we use it for the Brewster County Appraisal Assessment District Board already. We've been doing it for 3 months. That, as Rod pointed out, you know, the board members can be there. It allows the public to tie in. We've had some of our board members tie in by Zoom. We've had public participation in person, and we've had public participation by Zoom. I just think this isn't going away real soon. So setting up the capability to do that is in the city's best interest, and it gives us the flexibility in terms of whatever we need to go do. So my put would be start heading towards the process for hybrid. Then each of the council members and each of the members who want to participate can make their own choice.
Thank you. I like that.
Yep. So council, you know, think about it and
Well, we
see what
can,
you want.
yeah, we can put that into effect for the October 20th meeting. And then we will also have to look, I'll have identify a location for the November 3rd meeting, which will have to be offsite. I'll have a resolution for council on the 20th on an alternate location for those that want to attend in person on November 3rd.
But I would recommend, or taking up Council Stevens' idea of a hybrid meeting, I think would be a good approach. But my also concern is, have you received any comments or opinions from the general public, residents? What would they be willing to have us come back in live form?
Well, we had close to 40 people show up for the law enforcement emergency services workshop. We anticipate close to 50 people tomorrow showing up for the lighting workshop. And all of those citizens that I talk to, you know, are comfortable showing up. You know, they use the social distancing. We have the masks and the temperature checker up front.
Okay.
Any more comments, Maria?
I agree with Rick. I like the hybrid idea.
Okay, Betty.
Yeah, I like the idea also.
Okay, Lucy.
I do. I like it, especially
Okay.
with what happened today.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's some consideration for our next meeting then. Okay.
Perfect.
Buddy, anything else? Then we'll move on to the action items to be accompanied by a brief statement of facts, including where funds are coming from, if applicable. Action items limited up to 10 per meeting. After being called upon by the mayor and mayor pro tem, citizens are required to state their names and ward in which they reside. Priority will be given to citizens of Alpine and those who own business or property in the city. Individuals who do not live in or own business or property in the city limits of Alpine will be allowed to speak if there is time available. And Constable Escobedo, the first one is yours.
I'll make a motion to discuss, consider, and take appropriate action on resolution 2020-10-03 regarding the Texas Parks and Wildlife Local Parks Grant Program to develop Pueblo Nuevo Park. The city is requesting $200,000 from Texas Parks and Wildlife and is required to provide a $200,000 match if awarded.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay, motion made and second. Any discussion?
Yes. So we're talking about 200,000. Eric or Megan, where would we pull that money from if Texas Parks and Wildlife says yay verily?
So two things we had talked about. One, well, first of all, we're going to phase it in over the course. So we would do 67,000 a year or 100,000 a year if we could complete it in 2 years.
Okay.
The first location that we would look for or look at would be, does it make sense with that splash pad allocation? Are we going to pursue that splash pad? because we just don't know from a health and wellness perspective whether that becomes a long-term sustainable project. Then the second piece would be looking back at our fund balances, and we're coming off a pretty aggressive 2-year cycle on streets.
Yep.
And so Public Works is also streets and parks. So we would look at the secondary possibility would be to lower the dollar amounts in the next fiscal year to make the rest of that 200,000 up. So that's how we would do it, Rick.
Okay.
Eric, would you know, okay, we applied for the park grant. How long would it be before we get a response, whether it's positive or not?
We're going to get that in the first calendar quarter of this next year. The grant application will go in before the end of this year. And then usually it takes them anywhere between 6 to 12 weeks. And I do have Marcy on there. She's more of an expert on this, but I think she's nodding her head. 6 to 12 weeks sounds reasonable. And then, we would basically put our project plan in place and probably look at implementation to start next fiscal year. So that would give us the opportunity to line up all of our financing and execute on it. Yeah, I mean, it's a large project, right? It's 1.7 acre park. I think, if it takes 12 to 24 months to build it out, then that would be appropriate. It's not that we couldn't rush through and get it done in 3 or 4 months, but we want to make sure we do it right. We've got, a little bit of water infrastructure there that we'd have to maneuver around. But we also have, Adelina's received a grant. I know some of this information's in your packet, but we've received some dollars for trees. We've also gotten a commitment from Big Ben Telephone to do some gifting with us on the project, as well as working with other local businesses to get some donations to help support that. The Friends of Big Ben Park have been very gracious in what they've done in donations through the years as well.
Yeah, a plan as to what will be, how the park's going to be designed?
Yes, that was in your packet. Yes.
Okay, I missed it then. I'm sorry.
I can show it on the screen if you'd like.
Yes, please.
Yeah, page 68 is where it's at.
Oh, you disabled it. Yay, okay. Oh, nope, I can't share. Gio, can I get permission to share? Oh, or
which slide do you want? 68?
Oh, I have my own, just the design of the park, yes.
68.
I just pulled up the separate document. I wasn't within the whole packet.
Okay. Is that good?
Yes, that's perfect. So just to clarify that there has been a lot of public process associated with this project. The Parks Advisory Board, and we have the chairperson, Kirsten Moody, on the meeting right now as well. But the Parks Board had 2 separate meetings out at the park, and Councilmember Escovedo showed up as well to those, where we had the community members there telling us what they wanted at this park that is their neighborhood park. And so taking their input in mind, as well as recommendations from the master plan that council approved at the beginning of 2020, I think, or maybe, yeah, anyway, this is what we came up with. So in the middle is a big playground area. There are also some exercise stations that are ADA accessible and senior citizen friendly, because we didn't want to forget about other demographics and not just focus on kids. There is a large, yeah, well, I don't think you guys can see my mouse, but the large square in the bottom left is a shaded pavilion area, or thank you, Eric, is a shaded community gathering space for, you know, for the area, for the residents and for the citizens. And then on the lower right-hand side is a half-court basketball court with some team seating there, where there will be proposed this really awesome, new, innovative, interactive technology called a sit-to wall or suit-to wall. It's new to us as well. And it would be the very first of its kind in West Texas. Eric, if you could scroll down to the next pages that shows pictures worth 1,000 words, that might make a little more sense for what I'm talking about. All right. So you can see the kids down at the bottom there with the soccer ball. And what that is it's a vandal-proof paneled game where you can kick the soccer ball, and there's multiple games that kids can play that integrate technology into that. Like they could practice and see how fast they're kicking the soccer ball, or they could play a game where, okay, I have to make an X pattern on those panels and they'll light up when they're done. Kind of like soccer bingo, I guess, or soccer tic-tac-toe. And it's, you know, interactive. They can use their phones if they so choose to play games with others that have access to this type of amenity as well. So it gets the kids who are oftentimes addicted to the devices out and moving, using that very device, but encouraging them to go outside and, well, this kid kicked this soccer ball 5 miles per hour faster than me. I want to go try again. You know, that type of interactivity to engage maybe older youth that isn't really the, you know, playground age. So it's a new component, and Craftsman Playground is the contractor that we've asked to help us with some of these estimates and renderings, and they offered that up as a really cool, innovative new thing. And Kirsten Moody and I felt like it was pretty cool enough to put in there as a possibility. So we do have a lot of, you know, support from the community on the design in general. We have a lot of, as Eric mentioned, nominal support. Big Ben Telephone is offered to provide the Wi-Fi service associated with this really cool new interactive feature. We have support from the school district. We're reaching out to our state rep. There's a lot of support for this. And I would like to add, sort of in response, Councilman Stevens, to your question about the money and the matching, we would use staffing. So we would use the parks crew to do a lot of the irrigation and landscape installation, and those dollars used for their time, for staff time, can be part of our match. So it can come out of the force labor accounts of the city. So it's not just straight free dollars. We can use our guys to help meet that match.
Great.
That part of town really needs a park.
It sure does.
It's been neglected forever. So
Yes.
Great, fantastic.
I know I'll get asked, because I've been asked before, are the trees still alive out there at that park? I know some were planted a number of years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Trees and a lot of goat heads. That's about it right now.
Okay, but are those trees going to get moved and reallocated?
No.
The live ones will. Yeah.
The live ones I'm talking about. Yeah, the dead ones, no, dump those, but the live ones.
They will get, yes, because that playground is kind of right in the middle, and the trees kind of create quadrants
Yeah, they make
in that park right now.
Okay, so we're going to move them, yeah, because I know an individual who donated a lot of money to put trees out there, and I'm going to get asked, so thank you.
They will be, yes, they will be relocated within the park. So.
Good.
Okay, any more questions?
I'm excited.
And I asked Ms. Moody to be on the call because the Parks Advisory Board has not met yet since February or March, just because of everything. But the Parks Board is meeting next week, and it will be in front of them to formally support this grant application as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marcy. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand.
So I'm in favor. I just want to clarify. So the motion is to approve the resolution, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that that's what we're talking about. Okay, good, because I want them to reflect that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. See, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Anybody opposed? Like sign? Okay, motion carries. Thank you all very much. Fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Okay, Lucy, I hope that makes you happy.
I am.
Okay,
I'm gonna sleep.
you're ecstatic now, right?
I am.
Okay, item number 2, city manager.
All right, item 2 is to discuss, consider, and take appropriate action on Resolution 2020-10-04, a resolution by the city of Alpine supporting fall events. That resolution was in your packet. We saw many comments earlier in the meeting from both Carrie Blackman and Art Walk, as well as other organizations.
Mayor, I propose we approve resolution 2020-10-04, resolution by the city of Alpine supporting fall events.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second. Second.
Okay, we got several seconds. Who was first?
Maria.
Maria. Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign? Motion carries. Okay, thank you all very much. Let's move on to item number 3.
Item number 3 is to discuss, consider, and take appropriate action to approve Resolution 2020-10-06, a resolution of support for the Halloween treat giveaway. We're working on from a city perspective, but we did want to have council support on that. It also will be an outdoor event where kids will basically engage in a parade type setup, and then they'll be given a bag of candy at the end. So it's not giving individual candy from a variety of different households or people. That's what the CDC is recommending against. So our event would be a parade for kids to walk. They can stay socially distanced outside, wear their masks, participate in Halloween, and at the end we'll have a law enforcement officer give them a bag of candy. We'll also have a drive-up option for those families that feel more comfortable in not getting out of the car, just driving up and participating as well.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on that.
So I move that we approve resolution 2020-10-06 to support the Halloween tree giveaway.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Hey, Eric.
Yes, sir.
Where's this gonna be?
We're gunning for the 31st.
No, where?
Where? We're talking about 2 locations, either the middle school or Coconut Park. We've talked with Becky, or I've talked with Becky about potentially using the middle school as a location. If not, we'll use Coconut Park.
Kind of favor Coconut Park. It's a little bit more centrally located. But
I think we'll end up at Coconut Park.
Yeah. Is there any, and I know you got lots, I think it's a great thing to go do, age things to sort through between the young ones at the elementary school and the middle schoolers? You're going to get adults out there looking for a bag of candy.
That's right. And that's great. You know, if a whole family wants to come through, and because I know a lot of families will, you know, dress up as a, like Fantastic Four or some superhero, right? And they'll all dress up together, and then they could walk through the parade and, you know, all get a bag of candy. We are going to go out and seek donations. There are a lot of people that will just, and Heather's been talking to Trey over at Porter's. There's a lot of people that still want to do something for Halloween for the kiddos, and they would go buy the bags of candy. Porter's has already ordered all the bags of candy, so they would go buy them, and then we would set up like a kind of like a packing machine in the Civic Center. That's our plan, and pack all these, you know, varieties of candies together. Probably even do, I think I can convince Heather and Cynthia to do some gluten-free ones too, for those folks that have that need as well. So.
Yeah, and at the risk of getting myself in further trouble, is your thoughts about having a contest for best dressed family or best dressed in age categories, or that's beyond the scope?
Cynthia, let's do it. I mean, this is a community event. We want to give people an option. You know, CDC is saying, hey, don't go house to house.
Yep.
So we want to do something that celebrates Alpine, celebrates our families, celebrates our kiddos out there, and gives them an opportunity to do it in a safe environment. Yep. So I think something like awarding best costume or, best family. But let's do that.
And if I may, real quick, just as a reminder, Eric, Porter's is going to donate the pumpkins for the children.
Right. Porter's has already agreed to donate all the pumpkin to each child this year, just like they did last year.
Cool.
Great. This is a great idea, Eric. So kudos to you and the staff that thought about this idea. It is really a relatively safer than going home to home. And,
yes.
And we know that we're conscious of course, of the virus. So people be wearing their mask and, taking precautions. So fantastic. Also want to thank you that you didn't exclude the seniors like me. Okay. I thought Rick was trying to draw a line there. So I was getting a little worried.
Nope.
But no, it's a great idea. I think it's best for the city. And I think it'll be a lot of fun for the families and the kids.
Good. Well, thank you for that.
Any more comments? Let's put it to a vote. Okay, good. Let's put it to a vote then. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Oppose? Like sign, motion carries. Happy Halloween. Okay, the next one, item number 4.
Item number 4 is to discuss, consider, and take appropriate action on Resolution 2020-10-07, a resolution for the 2021 Regional Solid Waste Grant application for the City of Alpine. This is a program that we participate in virtually every year. The resolution that Adelina and Gio put together, along with her background information, was included in your packet.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I propose that we approve Resolution 2020-10-07, a resolution of the 2021 Regional Solid Waste Grant application for the City of Alpine.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and second. Any comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you all very much. Okay, item number 5. City Manager.
Sure. Item number 5 is to discuss, consider, and take appropriate action to approve the letter of engagement with Gibson, Ruddock, and Patterson LLC to perform a single audit for the City of Alpine fiscal year 2020-2021. That information that Gibson, Ruddock, and Patterson provided to us as scope of work was provided in your packet along with anticipated costs. That's what we're looking at.
Broke up, Eric.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, I think everything was in the packet, Mayor, so.
Mr. Mayor, I propose we approve the letter of engagement with Gibson, Ruddock, and Patterson LLC to perform a single audit for the City of Alpine for fiscal year 2021.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Any? Seeing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much for that one. And item number 6, Councilman Stevens.
Yes, sir. This one is all aimed and follows up on the dialogue that we had early in the meeting about where are we. Crafted a resolution that I know is in your packet, basically says, hey, we want to reaffirm the agreement that was put in place with Brewster County where the jail is located and get agreement and get that documented. Absent an agreement, then the council would take whatever actions appropriate to ensure the safety of residents, visitors, and detainees. I think we're all frustrated by how long this has taken. This resolution just says, hey, it's time for us to move forward and get resolution, or we take action to be able to support the city needs. So with that, I propose that that the city council approve resolution 2020-10-05 that will force resolution of the issues created by the Brewster County Sheriff, not allowing Alpine Police Department arrestees to be admitted to the city/county jail without magistration.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion's made and second. Any discussion? Okay, I've got a quick question on this one. Can this resolution be enforced? Because the sheriff is an elected official, and basically, I think when I looked it up, he is the one that's totally in charge of the jailhouse. You know, I think it's a good resolution to get a result, because I'm tired of this thing going back and forth. I just want to make sure that it can be enforceable.
So nothing can be enforced without an agreement between Brewster County, and I include the sheriff in that, and the city. All this says is document it and get it signed. Right now, all we have is word and a single letter unsigned. It's time to get it documented, and that's what this resolution is intended to do.
Okay, fair enough.
My only comment on this, Mayor, is the wording to force resolution of the issues created by the Brewster County Sheriff unilaterally. It just doesn't jive with me. What are the words to use? I'm not sure. But it would seem to me like maybe the resolution could focus a bit more on finding to establish communications and finding the best procedure to move forward regarding Alpine Police Department arrestees to be admitted. But to a resolution to, I don't know, to a resolution of issue, I don't know. I'm just talking out loud right now.
Yeah, so Ramon, what I tried to do, and in all the whereases, those are in fact facts. So they are not opinions. Those are the facts that are going on. If you're talking about further down, it's really intended to, if you don't want to say force, say resolve the issues, but the issues nonetheless exist, and they need to be in the best interest of the city of Alpine, as opposed to right now, it's a one-way perspective. So if you got some suggestions, to rather than say force, but resolve, just tell me where.
I would say to resolve the issue.
So
resolve the issues
the
between.
resolution. Yeah, can you point to the resolution, please? Where?
Second sentence.
Second sentence in what, please?
In item 6, it says forced resolution of the issues created by the Brewster County Sheriff. Is that what you're looking at, Ramon?
Yes, that's what I'm looking at.
Okay, I'm a little slow. You're on page 1 or page 2?
I guess it's page 3.
There is no page 3 of the resolution. It's a 2-page resolution.
Oh, Rick, they're talking about the writing of the action item, not about the actual resolution.
Okay, so I proposed the resolution as written. It's for approval of the resolution. So I will modify I'll modify my motion to say, propose that Alpine City Council approve resolution 2020-10-05, period.
Is that good enough for you, Ramon?
That's good.
Okay, it's been modified then.
Mike, do you have
Okay.
any questions?
Sorry?
Any more questions? Okay, seeing none then. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Oh, wait a minute. We got to go back and vote on the new
You
one.
got to get a second on
Yeah.
Rick's amendment, and then you're going to have to approve his amendment. Okay?
And then go back to the
Go back
first.
and approve the amended resolution.
Okay, so I'll need a second on this.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Excuse me. Sorry.
Okay. All those in favor on the resolution as amended, raise your right hand. Can't see hands. Could y'all raise them a little higher? 1, 2, 3. Okay. And so all those opposed, the motion carries. Now let's go back to the original, which says discuss, consider, and take appropriate actions on resolution 2020-10-05 that will to force resolution of the issues created by Brewster County Sheriff. I'm not going to read it all. So on that motion, it's already been seconded. Okay, so we're going to vote on this one now. All those in favor of that motion, raise your right hand. All those opposed, raise your right hand. It's 1, 2.
Okay,
Betty, I
so
don't see you.
let's go back and clarify. We approve the amendment to the motion.
Correct.
That strikes everything after 2020-10-05. That's the amendment. So we
Right.
approve the amendment. Now to go back and approve the original motion. Now the motion reads, take action to resolution 2020-10-05, period.
Correct. And I thought we had voted on that already to approve it.
You voted on approving the amendment to the original motion.
Okay.
So now that you've approved the amendment, now you've got to go back and read the amended motion.
The amended motion is to approve resolution 2020-10-05, period.
Period. Okay. Now, there's a motion. It's been seconded. So we're going back and we're going to vote on that motion. Okay. So all those in favor, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And oppose? Like sign. Okay. Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you.
Whoa. Getting sleepy here. All righty. So then we need to move on. And we'll go with Councilman Stevens.
So I'd like to bring up 2 points, Mayor, relative to where we're at from a schedule standpoint. It's now by the clock of Apple. It's now 8:38 in the evening. And by our rules, we're supposed to stop at 9 o'clock. We have a fair amount of work to go through. My sense is item 7 will probably take a fair amount of discussion. And then we've got 8 and we have executive session to go through. I thought it worthwhile to ask, do we want to extend for this evening or do we want to pause prior to the witching hour and reconvene tomorrow? No pun intended, given it's Halloween month. But anyway, that's thought it worthwhile to raise that. So I've raised the question. I'll pause, and then we can decide what to do from there.
Okay. So you got council. You got 2 choices. We can continue, or we can pause it and wait till tomorrow and finish up.
Yeah, my sense is, I think we have a good hour's worth of discussion to go through that I think are going to be good discussions. I wouldn't want us to cut them short, but that's why my thinking is we postpone until tomorrow. That was my thinking.
And I kind of agree with you there because it will be probably pretty lengthy. So you
we'll
wanna
come
make-
back and do 7. I mean, come
Yes,
back
se-
and we'll
7
start
to-
at 7.
Right, 7. We'll start at 7, then continue on down to the executive meeting.
Yeah, 8, and then we have the executive session and then action items after that.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry. Can I ask on 6, who, I know Rick did the motions on them and the amended one. Who seconded them?
Maria.
Maria
Yep,
did.
Maria did.
Sorry. Okay.
Okay, so Rick, do you want to make a motion on this?
So I'll go ahead and make the motion and then everyone can, decide on that. I propose that the city council adjourn its business of this evening and reconvene tomorrow at 5:30 in accordance with its established procedures.
I second.
Holy
Okay, we
moly.
Yes, everybody's got it. Okay, motion's been made and second. Any discussion on this?
I'd be happy to meet tomorrow fresh and new again.
Yep.
Okay.
I agree.
Are you good with that tomorrow?
Okay, we're all in agreement then?
Yeah, is Rod okay with that tomorrow? I know it's your schedule, Rod.
No, I'm available for that.
Super, thank you.
Okay, good.
At
So
5:30?
at 5:30 tomorrow.
Yep.
Okay, Gio, you set us up for Zoom tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, all righty. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, like sign. The witching hour is upon us, so motion carries. Thank you. Meeting is, I'll entertain a motion from you.
So, Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn for this evening to be able to reconvene consistent with the motion that is passed tomorrow.
Okay, and that is not debatable. We are adjourned.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.